Good morning, Dr. Ratu.
Hello. Yeah, I was just talking to just check my connection. So it looks my connection is okay. So yeah, because our guest speaker Peter has joined. I think he's coming. So Peter, can you hear us?
Just barely. Could you try again, please?
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
अभिषेक गुड मॉर्निंग
गुड मॉर्निंग सर. नमस्ते. नमस्ते सर.
क्या हाल है?
अच्छा हूँ, आप कैसे हैं?
बस ठीक है.
हेलो हरीश.
Good morning, Dr. Abhishek.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
I'm Kadirvel.
Hello Kadirvel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wow. After a long
time. Yeah, it's an opportunity to meet again.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Good morning, Dr. Koldrek.
Good morning. How are
Good
you?
morning. Fine. Nice to meet you, Dr. Koldrek, here for this
Thank
program.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
So good morning, everyone.
Good morning, madam.
Yeah.
Good
I think
morning,
we
madam.
have-
Morning.
Yeah, good morning. And Actually, DDG sir will be joining shortly and ADG OP also. So they said not to delay the resource persons and all that who have taken out their time from their busy schedule and then have accepted our invitation. They said you can continue the program and all that, and then they will be joining shortly. So it's my pleasure to welcome all of you. And actually this program on product profile development, trial management, digitization of plant breeding experiments and variety release system has been designed by our Honorable DDG Sir Dr. T.R. Sharma. And then it is for the benefit of all the participants of the ECRIP ICR institutes. So, and then we had our constant support of our ADG OP Dr. Gupta for this particular program. And we welcome all the resource persons who have accepted our invitation and then made the time available for delivering the lectures.
वीडियो बंद किए हुए हैं.
So we would like to place on record our heartfelt thanks to Dr. Peter Koldrake from ICRISAT, Dr. Harish Gandhi, cluster leader ICRISAT, then Dr. Abhishek Rathore, who is also from ICRISAT, then Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Director IASR in New Delhi,
रौनक एक वे नहीं आता.
data management, then Dr. Anil Kumar Saxena, Director NBIM, because we use a lot of biopesticides in our programs and all that. So then it is felt necessary that
कागज कलम देखियो तनी.
program on evaluation, characterization and commercialization of microbial cultures and formulations also. Likewise, we have a lecture by Dr. Vijay Prasad from CICR, and it is on the evaluation and scoring for resistance against key pests and diseases. So for the past 1 year, there have been a lot of changes in our ECRIP functioning. So we have put ECRIP under automation. And our DDG sir was constantly telling about the importance of pre-breeding. So it has become a part of the ECRIP activities. Likewise, we have revised the promotion criteria for all the crops also. And then last week, we had a program on molecular markers, applications and tools for the ECRIP breeders. So with this brief background, what was suggested is we have to fine tune our ECRIP breeding trials also. So we have brought all the think tank who can really guide us in our programs and all that. And for the today's meeting, we have the participants from all the ECRIP oilseed institutes. Like we have 9 annual oilseed crops. So 6 are being dealt with by IAVOR. And then we have soybean institute at Indore, then groundnut at Junagadh, and mustard at Bharatpur. So all the ECRIP scientists from these particular organizations are participating in this. And we would like to welcome all the VCs of the universities who have given permission for their scientists to participate in this particular meeting. And also the directors of all the other oilseed institutes like IASR Indore, Bharatpur and DGR Junagadh, and also the PC units Sisem and Niger, without whose help we would not have been conducting this particular training program. So with these few remarks, the purpose of the training program and all that, and not taking much time from the resource persons, I would like to request Dr. Peter Koldrake to make a presentation on the product profile development, particularly for oilseed crops. And it would be a combined presentation with Dr. Harish Gandhi. So both of them have vast experience in germplasm management and all that. Dr. Peter Koldrake has worked as Director, Germplasm Technology Programs at Corteva Agri-Science and Operations Director at DuPont Pioneer. And Dr. Harish Gandhi is a Principal Scientist and Regional Breeding Team Lead, Asia at ICRISAT. Previously, he worked as Head Trade Development, APAC, and also has a lot of experience in corn and rice, and particularly with regard to trade development and rice genetics. So with these few words, I request both Dr. Peter and Dr. Harish Gandhi to make their presentation on the product profile development for oilseed crops for the benefit of our participants. Thank you, Dr. Peter, for giving us this opportunity and then to hear you. So floor is yours and then you can make your presentation.
So can you hear me and can you see my screen?
We can't see your screen, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Peter. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. We can see the screen, sir.
Okay. But now I can't see it. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can see, sir. We can see,
Okay,
Dr.
great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. What I would like to do is give a presentation about market segments, product profiles, and pipeline investment cases, all of which I think are relevant to this session that's being held today. As I've worked with the Excellence in Breeding Group across the CG organizations, I developed a set of assumptions, and what I have here is my set of assumptions, but I've just highlighted the ones that are really relevant to market segments, product profiles, and pipeline investment cases. And the assumptions are we need a common and consistent language and approach across institutions, crops, and regions as we develop market segments, product profiles, and pipeline investment cases. We need a consistent and common approach to define market segments, develop product profiles, and develop the pipeline investment cases. And I know that there will be resistance to this initially, but achieving a common language and a common approach will allow significant progress to be made and will greatly simplify the communication in this area so that regardless of who we're talking to, if we have a common and consistent language, it will make communication so much easier. So as I think about product market segments and product profiles, the first thing is to identify the region that we're working in. And so the region could be a 1CG region, it could be a 1CG sub-region, it could be a country, it could be a province, it could be a target population of environments. So this depends on the level that you want to be working at, but the first thing is to identify the region. Then the next thing is to identify the grower parameters and the consumer parameters that are unique within that region. And the combination of grower parameters and consumer parameters equals a product market segment for that particular region. Once we've defined the product market segment, then we can develop the product profile for the ideal product for that particular market segment. So as I think about identifying a market segment, I use these parameters, and please understand that not all of these parameters will be relevant to all crops, but this is sort of an overarching framework that I use to help me focus in on and help guide people to understanding and identifying a market segment. So first of all, it's the crop, then it's the region, then it's the sub-region, and then it may be the biological region or the ecosystem that's within that sub-region. Then is it a clone? Is it a variety? Or is it a hybrid? Then think about the production system. So is it dry land? Is it irrigated? Is it a dual purpose production system? Then think about the input level. So is it low inputs? Is it adequate inputs? Then the maturity. So is it early, medium, or late? And so then think about how the product is going to be used. So is it used on farm? Is it sold in fresh markets? Does it enter the commodity channels? Or is it a special end-use value chain that the unique product goes into? Then we can think about the color of the product, the grain and flesh type, and whether it's biofortified or not biofortified. So this is just an overarching structure to help people as they think about identifying a market segment. So what I did here is use an example of a groundnut market segment in Western Africa. So starting at the top, we're talking about groundnut. We're in Western Central Africa, and we're in West Africa. Then we're in the Sahel, Sudan, Northern Guinea savanna within Western Africa. We've got a variety. We're in a rain-fed production system. We've got moderate inputs, short duration. It's a multi-purpose crop, meaning it's consumed on the farm and it's sold into commodity channels, and it's either tan or red. And then the grain and flesh type, in this case, are not applicable, nor is whether it's biofortified or non-biofortified. So this is just giving you an example of how to think through the parameters that drive the identification of a unique market segment in a particular region. So once we have the market segment, then we can develop the product profile or the description of the ideal product for that market segment. And you can see on this slide, I've got it broken into three distinct boxes. And within each box, there's a column for the trait, there's a column for the scale that the trait needs to be measured on, and then there's a column for the minimum threshold score on that scale that the ideal product must have. And so the set of boxes on the left-hand side relate to the traits that are important to the grower of the crop. And so you can see here, there's the things like the input level, maturity, color, the biological region. So in the biological region, it would come down to what disease and agronomic traits are necessary to produce the ideal product in that region. The top right-hand box then looks at the traits that are important to the consumer of the product. And so if the product's processed, what are the unique traits required for processing? What scale are those traits measured on? And what's the minimum threshold on that scale of that particular trait that's required for processing? And then the bottom right-hand section is a set of traits that need to be considered. And in this are any unique traits about the seed production or seed multiplication of the product. And so are there specific germination requirements? Are there, if it's a hybrid crop, is there a maximum in the delay of the split between the male and female that is considered acceptable? Things like that. So are there certain seed sizes that are required in seed production? So a set of unique traits there. And then finally, a set of unique traits if they've not already been captured, and if there's a product registration process in the region that the product has to go through, are there unique traits in that registration process that need to be captured in the target product profile? And finally, I think it's important that we capture the key products for that particular market segment that we're trying to replace with this new product. So this is the template that we've developed that extends from the market segment to defining the ideal product for that market segment in terms of traits, the scale used to measure the trait, and the minimum score on that particular trait, on that particular scale required for any given trait. So just looking at this, if we look at a completed target product profile for a groundnut market segment in Western Africa, you can start to see here in that the traits that are listed. You can see the scale. So in some cases it's a 1 to 9 scale, and you can see that there's a minimum score on that scale that's required. So in this case, in the region, they look at maturity, they look at resistance to leaf spot, resistance to rust, resistance to rosette, number of seeds per pod, biomass, yield, number of pods per plant, and number of seeds per plant. So examples of traits, examples of the measurement of that trait, and examples of the minimum score that's required for that given trait for this set of key traits there. If we go on and we look at now this set of traits that are important to the consumer, you can see seed quality. So we've got seed size, seed color. We've got processing traits like shelling percentage or butter yield. We've got consumption traits like aflatoxin, oil content, oleic acid content, what scale they're measured on, and what's the minimum accepted level. And then you can see at the bottom some of the unique production multiplication traits. So we've got homogeneity, genetic purity, germination as examples, the unique product registration traits. So what traits are collected in that product registration trial? In this case, the 3 traits that are listed here are also listed above, so there's no unique traits. The traits are duplicated in what we have above. And at the bottom, you can see a list of varieties that would be targeted to be replaced in this particular market segment. So that gives you an example of how we identify a market segment and then how we create a product profile for that particular market segment. So then if we go forward and we think then about how are we aligning breeding programs then to that particular market segment. And so in this diagram, you can see on the far left-hand side that breeder A has a breeding program and it's targeted at one particular market segment. And so that one breeding program at one market segment equals the pipeline or that's focused on that particular market segment. If we go to the second from the left box, you can see that breeder B is focused on 3 market segments. So market segment 2, market segment 3, and market segment 5. But they're saying they can do that with a single pipeline. And so a single pipeline or a single breeding effort is serving 3 particular market segments. Each of those market segments would have a unique product profile. Then you can see for breeder C and breeder D that we have 2 breeders working on developing products for market segment 6. And so the sum of those 2 breeders' efforts focused on market segment 6 in this diagram would be equal to pipeline number 3. And then we won't go through the rest except for what's on the far right-hand side. And you can see on the far right-hand side, there's some market segments that were identified that have no breeding effort focused on them at all. And so while the market segment exists, there's no effort within the CG research centers to create products for those particular market segments. So here we've taken the market segment and we've taken the breeding programs and we've aligned the two, and we've said, okay, what market segment is a particular breeding program focused on? So then as we think about the pipeline investment cases, what we've done in defining the market segments is to find the opportunity that exists. And we can think about opportunity in terms of hectares, in terms of dollar value, in terms of the population that's in a particular market segment, in terms of the number of people in poverty in a given market segment, number of people undernourished in that market segment, the sustainability of production in the market segment, and perhaps the climate change that's occurring within that market segment. And so we can define the opportunity of a given market segment. We can then define the investment that's being made in breeding for that given market segment based on the size and the dollars that are invested in the pipeline that's focused on that market segment. And so now we've got a description of opportunity and we understand the investment that's being made against that particular opportunity. And those 2 things allow us to generate a pipeline investment case. And so this is just one example of what a pipeline investment case could look like. This is for the groundnut market segments in Western Africa. And in this case, there's 4 unique market segments. And what we've got on one axis is the number of people that are undernourished in each market segment. And on the other axis, we've got the investment that's being made in that particular market segment. And then the 3 columns that are shown within each market segment. The blue column represents the total number of unnourished people that the pipeline serves. So this is the total population in that market segment is serving. The green box represents the number of people in the rural areas of that market segment. And then the orange box represents the number of people that fall within the actual footprint of the production of that crop. And so you can see that there's quite significant differences in the size of each of these market segments and the height of the columns in each of the 4 areas. And then the orange line is representing the investment that's being made in each of these market segments. So you can see in the case of groundnut in Western Africa that the investment being made is very proportional to the number of people that are undernourished in that market segment. So in this case, we've got the investment well aligned with the number of people that are undernourished in that particular market segment. So here we see, we've got good alignment between the opportunity that exists. In this case, we're measuring opportunity or representing opportunity by number of undernourished people, and the level of investment that we're making to improve crops that will benefit those people that are undernourished. So I'll leave it there and then ask Harish to speak to the next set of slides, but I hope what I've done is give you an understanding of how we approach region. Then we define a market segment within a region, and there can be multiple market segments in any given region. Market segment considers both grower needs and consumer needs of the product. Once we've identified that market segment, then we can create a product profile that describes trait by trait what traits are required in the ideal product for that market segment. Once we've done that, we can look at the size of the breeding effort focused on that market segment. Then we can relate the two and the relationship between the opportunity of the market segment and the level of investment that's being made for that given market segment to develop products is the pipeline investment case. So now I'll ask Harish to make a few comments on how we then can start to develop and refine breeding strategies that we have to create products that meet or exceed the product profile that we've defined. So thanks, Harish, for taking the next several slides. Tell me when you'd like me to change the slide, please.
Sure. Hi, thank you. Good morning, all. For people who are in India, and good evening to you, Peter. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to talk about this is a very, very important aspect, and it leads to the demand-led breeding, and how do we ensure our outputs from breeding program are actually aligned with what the farmers, what the consumer, and what the people are looking for. So Peter nicely explained, I think put the framework in front of you in terms of how you can define market segments and how you can actually then start using those market segments to define your investments and then how you can use different criteria to define these investments. So what I'm going to do is, once you have a market segment and you start identifying a specific product profile within that market segment, which your breeding program is going to address, how you start aligning those things together. And I think Peter gave a brief, in one slide, he talked about, how you can actually start aligning your breeding program to different market segments. So, one of the key question which comes, for example, in case of rice, you can define the rice market segments almost, close to 20, 30, 40, depending on how you cut across. And if you start dividing sub-segments, those will start running into hundreds. So what becomes really critical is which market segments we would like to target, as an institute, as an organization, it could be a private sector, it could be a public sector. You have to start prioritizing, which market segment you would like to go after. And so that I think becomes a very, very key criteria, because that determines the rest of the things, which, as Peter mentioned in the previous slide, how you're going to invest in segments. And then once you determine, then you start aligning your breeding pipelines, your testing pipeline, your screening strategies, and then you meet, different markets, to meet those market segment needs, which are based on the product profiles then. And then that will start helping you determine your key research priorities. For example, each one of the screening, for example, either it's a genomics, screening, or whether it's pathology screening, physiology screening, all of these things will start falling together. Once you start defining the market segments, start defining the product profile, you can start aligning your product priorities and then research priorities along with it. So here, I think Peter already briefly talked about it, but I just give another example here. So if you have 4 market segments, and if you define the criteria, which can be defined at the institute level, depending on what the value drivers are for your institute or for your organization. Here in this example, I gave an acreages, number of smallholder farmer, economic impact, and food security. And I think in Peter's example, he had actually an actual acreages, and here you can maybe give a very subjective scores and start defining the priority. The point here is, at some point, you're not able to work on all of the market segments which are there for your crop. There will be some very, very niche areas. Maybe there is like a 3-podded groundnut, a particular state in India may need, but it may not be possible to provide all the breeding material, breeding support for that particular market segment. So you need to start prioritizing those so that we can align our resources to those very, very high important market segment. Next slide, please, Peter. Next slide. Yes. So I think the way to think about then is, the way I like to call a breeding pipeline is the pipeline which delivers all the way from selection of parents to an actual release products. And I gave an example here, aligning with our ICAR system, for example. So a breeder will essentially do a breeding cross and convert them into inbreds or lines by selfing them for F1 to F5 or F6, depending on a crop and the breeder's breeding strategy. And then he will do 2 years of testing, either they call it POIT or on-station trials or multi-location trial. And I like to call them early generation testing. And then depending on the crop, you might go through 2 years of IVT and 2 years of AVT or AHT, if it's a varietal hybrid crop, and then essentially release. So I think this is how I like to define a breeding pipeline. And what we are trying to say here is, I think Peter also very nicely shown in his slide, that these breeding pipelines going forward should be aligned to your market segment and the product profile you're breeding for, so that there's a clear alignment, that which breeding pipeline will be delivering for which market segment or vice versa. So then the other question typically comes is, in ICAR system, you have multiple centers working on the breeding for a particular crop. And I think Peter also gave an example there, and I like to further emphasize that multiple centers could be still working on a same breeding pipeline. Let's say this is breeding pipeline 1 for a groundnut market segment for high oil. So there could be a center in Junagadh, or maybe another center elsewhere in Rajasthan could be saying and aligning, saying we would be still working on the same breeding pipeline, but they may have one breeding pipeline maybe for 30, 40 crosses a year, other might be 20, 30 crosses per year. Maybe testing happens in Rajasthan or Gujarat complementarily, but then they will still contribute to the same breeding pipeline. So I think this is a very important point because, I understand in ICR and ICAR system, we have multiple centers working on a different breeding targets. Next slide, Peter. Next slide. Yeah. So then
It should be coming.
Yes, sorry. Once you have a clear definition of which market segment, you need to start thinking about, okay, whether it's going to be a full breeding pipeline, which is the way, an example I was showing you earlier, where starting from parent selection all the way till testing and going through ICAR testing, or is it really a pipeline where you leverage other breeding pipelines? So I think, for example, a breeding pipeline 1, maybe difference between market segment 1 and market segment 2 is just the number of days of maturity. Maybe market segment 1 requires 90 to 100 days, and market segment 2 requires, let's say, 110 to 120 days maturity. But the rest of the characters and the traits remains the same. So it's really up to a particular breeding, a group of breeders and a program and a management to decide whether we will have 2 different breeding pipelines serving that market segment or only 1 breeding pipeline. But then once you have a segregating generation fixed, you can start from that point onwards, start separating them into 2 different breeding pipelines. So I'll give an example here. I also work on a finger milled breeding. We have 2 market segments, one for north, Uttarakhand and Sikkim in that part of the region, and one in the south, mainly for Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and Maharashtra. But then we have only 1 breeding pipeline. But when the material comes in a 5 generation, we start segregating them based on the maturity, early maturing material. We start testing them in the in the Uttarakhand locations, and the medium maturity material we start only testing in the Karnataka. So this is just an example of a same breeding pipeline, can serve 2 different market segments if most of the traits, most of the target product profile traits are very, very similar. And there are only 1 or 2 traits which you can actually start selecting for in a later generation. So this is just give you that example of, a breeding pipeline and how it can be aligned with the market segment, and how a same breeding pipeline can serve more than 1 market segment. Next slide. Yeah, maybe you can go to the one more, Peter. Yes. So this one, I don't want you to go in a lot of detail, but I think one thing which is an important part, and I come from a private sector experience, and I was working with rice, and when I started working on the rice, it was quite critical for us to start prioritizing, what traits we will work on. Let's say for pathology or genomics and because all of this requires investment, a lot of people putting the time and energy, not only rupees, but also people's energy and time which goes in. What is critical is once you have this market segment defined, once you have product profiles defined, this really helps you in prioritizing what genes, for example, you can focus on, or what pathology screens you need, what hotspot locations we need, and really putting together a plan and an investment in all of these areas, so that you are focusing and working on only those traits which are critical for your most important market segment. So I think this is in this example, what we had done is we already had a market segment defined, but we were struggling with what traits are most critical in that market segment. So we started looking at the two value drivers, from a farmer's point of view, how much loss is occurred by, let's say, particular biotic stress, and how often that particular disease comes, in a given 3-year time window, and that gave us essentially a two-way graph to start looking at the traits. And in the top quartile there, you see the trait number 6, for example, and the other two traits, where we said, okay, this might be the most important trait. And we took then additional input from rest of the team and start defining a essentially a breeding strategy, which start asking question of what genes, because in this crop, in case of rice, we had a lot of genes known and available. And that led to refining, whether we use a backcross breeding approach or a forward breeding approach. And this is the second box there in a rectangle in the bottom. This is where the most of the investment happens, which trade discovery platform, where do we want to invest, or whether we invest for bacterial leaf blight or blast or false smut, in this example for rice, or do it for trade. So I think essentially the point here is once you start defining market segments, once you start defining your breeding priorities, this will really help you guide, rest of your investment as well. So Peter, next slide. Peter, did you already move?
I did. It's showing on my screen.
Okay. All right. So, sorry, this is, yeah, you can go to the next one as well. I already spoke through this. Yes. So anyways, I think this is a key summary part of what we spoke through. Defining market segment and target product profile is fundamental, for a new age of breeding. And I think this is how most of the breeding programs are working. And because it allows us to effectively align the development of the breeding material and products to the market needs. And this is what I mean by demand-led breeding, where you spend time, upfront and start really going deep dive into what real market needs are. And again, this doesn't say anywhere in the process that you should only serve a particular market segment. It actually gives an opportunity to really objectively look at what our different market segments are, which market segment you would like to serve, what our different requirements are. And I think really helps you tie very well with the strength of your each breeding program and really tying up with your delivery pipeline as well. And then I think, as I mentioned towards a couple of last slides, it provides a clear guidance. If you follow this route, market segment and target product profile, it gives a clear guidance to other functions, which are supporting breeding programs, such as pathology, physiology, genomics, and other functions as well, your testing pipelines and others. And I think this becomes a really good way for us and all of us in the system to align ourselves and become a lot more productive and effective in what we are delivering. So with that, I, on behalf of Peter and myself, like to thank for this opportunity to present this couple of slides, and maybe this will help you initiate a lot more discussion within your team. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter and Dr. Harish Gandhi. I think I would like to have the comments of our ADG OP on this particular presentation, Dr. Sanjeev Gupta.
So I must thank Dr. Peter and Dr. Haris for this important talk. Actually, it was in our group, particularly in Oil Street group and particularly in Pulses group. We were feeling that we should have some discussion on the product profile because a lot of things are in the pipeline. So what should be our final product? We should have decided first. I think this is very important talk. Madam, I am really thankful to you for inviting these two people for this important talk. Thank you very much.
And actually, we have been concentrating only on the high yield and high oil content, but now after listening to them, it is felt necessary that we have to prioritize the market segment needs also for defining the breeding pipelines. Certainly, we will redefine our goals, because all the while we are talking about high yield only in case of our oilseed crops. And next target rate is high oil content. Third is the short duration. Otherwise, we are not looking into the consumer's preference and all that with regard to our oilseed crops. Now, when we are thinking of crops like sesame and all that, now we have different market segments like the export value sesame, then black seeded, white seeded, gold seeded, and things like that for the different market thing. So we will certainly redefine our breeding pipeline and then fine tune our program. So thank you so much, Dr. Peter and Dr. Harish, for the excellent presentation what you have done for the benefit of our ECRIP scientists. Thank you once again, sir. So with these
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. And I don't think there are any questions in the chat box. We'll have a discussion later. So without taking much time, I would like to welcome Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Director IASRA. Dr. Rajendra Prasad has a lot of experience in data analysis and all that. And then we have taken support of Dr. Rajendra Prasad for ECRIP automation. And this year we have started linseed and safflower. And earlier we did for the sunflower and castor. So we would like to do the same for sesame and Niger also this year. And Dr. Rajendra Prasad has the NAS Recognition Award in 2015-16 for significant contributions to social sciences and also the National Award in Statistics for the young statisticians also. He has published many papers in peer-reviewed journals. And whatever automation and ECRIP works we are doing, it is all with the support of Dr. Rajendra Prasad. So without taking much time, I welcome you, sir, for making your presentation for the day for the benefit of our ECRIP scientists on ECRIP trial planning, data collection, and report generation. And this is timely because now we have initiated the ECRIP automation in linseed and safflower also. So with these few words, I welcome you, sir, for making your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
My screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Dr. Sanjeev, ADG OP, Dr. Anil, I can see Dr. YG, Director CICR, and all esteemed colleagues who have joined this presentation for the day. I would like to thank Director IIOR for providing us an opportunity to share research data management initiatives in ICAR. Although I have been asked to speak on only ECRIPS, but I'll take 5 or 6 slides to go through that what research management initiatives in ICAR has taken place so that they can be percolated down. Research data management in ICAR, we have basically, as all of us know, that Indian Council of Agriculture Research and the Department of Agriculture Research and Education is the largest agriculture research and education system in the world, with 113 institutes, 71 state agricultural universities, 3 central universities, 721 KVKs. We generate research data, convert it to knowledge products for Indian agriculture. How did we started with the journey towards the open data or research data management? Government of India brought National Data Sharing and Accessibility Policy in 2012 through a Gazette notification. ICAR came with open access policy for publications in 2013. And then ICAR Research Data Management Guidelines were approved by the governing body in March 2014, and they were circulated in October 2014. And I think this was somewhere 10th or 11th October, and we are going to 7 years of circulation of these research data management guidelines in the concept, and implementation of these guidelines started in 2015. We are basically under these research data management guidelines, bringing data at a centralized place for single window access, following the principle of FAIR, that is, data should be findable, it should be accessible, it should be interoperable, reusable. Then it should be transparent. We should be transparent in providing information on data availability to all, and it is open for legitimate purposes and promote open data culture among researchers. For this, we started a Krishi portal, agricultural knowledge, resources, and information system hub for innovations, ICAR Research Data Repository for Knowledge Management. It is available at krishi.icr.gov.in. These are the different repositories, wide variety of data catering to different stakeholders. We have experimental data repository. ECRIP data is a part of this repository. Then we have survey data repository, observational data repository. In fact, ECRIP data in National Agriculture Research System of different kinds, and all three repositories. Some ECRIPs have only observational data, some ECRIPs have survey data, some ECRIPs have experimental data. Then their output is publication repository, technology repository, variety information system, and geoportal. And
Sir,
besides that,
excuse me, sir. So
Yeah.
slides are not moving. They are not in slideshow.
they are in slideshow. You are not able to see, Dr. Sujata?
It is not in slideshow, sir.
We are seeing only the first slide only, automation system.
Maybe you
Okay,
share
let me share it
another-
again. Let me share it again.
Another monitor you might have shared.
Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, let me see whether it is going to next or not.
Sir, we see
Going to
presenters
next?
mode right now.
It is going to next?
Yeah,
Sir,
it is going,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
Vijay sir,
Dr. Abhishek.
we see presenters mode right now. Yes, presenters mode is coming. Probably you need to select another monitor.
I think it is.
This is presenters mode coming right now, not this one.
Okay. Just 1 minute. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, you
Let-
go to the slideshow, this icon on the from current slide, you can go, sir.
You are able to see? It is moving?
Yeah, it is moving, but again, presenters mode only, I think.
Let it go that way.
Okay, sir, no problem.
We have a video and audio gallery, mobile app gallery, then intellectual property assets repository, geo metadata repository, then master vocabulary to talk to different systems, and then interoperability. Interportal harvester. The workflow is that every individual researcher in the National Agriculture System can submit using icr.gov.in email ID credentials. No need to remember new user ID or password. Same user ID and password can be used. Then officer in charge data management, each institute already have. They can have review and approval the officer in data management. It comes to central data repository, and then it is shared in JSON, XML, and CSV, and through web services and API. And some of that data, which is should be made available in open access, is made available on open government data platform. At present, we have 350 ICT applications, online resources links at single window access, which have been viewed, 5 lakh plus page views across 1,000 cities of 120 countries. We have 61,000 publications and data inventory available with us from 107 institutes. And I'm happy to share that there are more than 1.9 million downloads and 2 million plus views, including those fetched by the other researchers. This is already indexed in Google Scholar, Byfield Academic Search Engine, Directory of Open Access Repositories, and Guardian. Karshe Abhishek and introduced us to the Guardian platform, and that's how this publication repository is being indexed there. Then we have more than 605,000 metadata records for unified search through Interportal Harvester. Therefore, my request to all is that start making use of this resource for literature search. Technologies we develop for reaching out to the stakeholders, that is what we are talking about today. And we have 1680 technology in public domain from 76 issues as on date. And we have also a mobile app of ICAR Technologies, through which any technology which is uploaded in technology repository automatically becomes in technology repository mobile app. And more than 10,000 downloads as on date. In video gallery for unified search and keyword search, based on keyword search, more than 26,000 videos and 80 audios from different institutes are available. Then we have ICAR repository, where we have information about 644 patents, 95 copyrights, and 1365 varieties registered under PPVFRA. And my request would be that those institutes who are joining here, particularly with Indian Institute of Oilseed Research, that kindly update this information. We have variety information system, where we are allowing varieties from crop science and as well as horticulture sciences to be entered through a unified format. More than 150 variety information is already available. I was just checking that we don't have information on oilseed varieties. Therefore, my request would be that to complete these varieties. Then, for as I said, that for interoperability, we have master data tables on 20 attributes. Then we have a single sign-on, which I have already said. Then we are also linked with the CGIAR, GFR, and Open Government Data Platform. Then we have several reports based on locating ICAR Institute. Then we have a complete information infographics for all repositories and each individual scientist user profile and institute user profile on Krishi dashboard. And each individual user profile includes the publications, technology, copyright, patents, and varieties developed by a particular scientist. And this can be seen on the portal. Then we have a lot of other things that earlier data inventory acceptability is there, because earlier our scientists used to submit to Bentley for publishing 9 impact factor journals. But now there are several papers which has come with submitting data to the ICAR data inventory repository, and this URL is acceptable everywhere. Then we are also sharing the data with other applications, including student MSc thesis, then a mobile app which is taking into consideration all the mobile apps together, students on OGD platform and other things. Therefore, now coming back to ACRIPS, basically to develop an information system which can facilitate planning of experiments. That is, we want to go from planning till interpretation of the results. Random coding of genotypes wherever required, generate randomized layouts and data sheets for the use of the ACRIPS sectors, uploading of data during the course of experiment or at the end. This can be chosen depending upon different characters. Uniform statistical analysis and reporting, maintain data at centralized place, and then provide secured access to data for authorized users. Particularly ACRIPS data, it is not available in open access. Here, the data submitted by the centers can be accessed by them. PC can access data for all the centers, and PC can also give access for the data wherever required to other users. Different access rights at different levels of users. Store the data and results in personal or project folder. This is generic, so that other ACRIPS can use. Only metadata, master data is to be changed. A new application for other ACRIPS gets into place. We started this initiative in 2013-14 with sorghum, then going to vegetable crops to small millets to maize to oil seeds, fruits. Then we have farm implements, machinery, weed science, and several others. 14 we have, by now we have completed the ACRIPS information systems. We aimed at standardization of data collection and statistical analysis across ACRIPS. Although we have developed this information system, 4 of the crops, as Dr. Sujata has already told, castor, safflower, sunflowers, and linseed. I'll be demonstrating only through linseed, and we look forward for Niger and Sisam as well. Basically, we have done in two ways. One is a WordPress website has been created where information which is, should be shared in open access is shared. This is available. This is available in acryp.icr.gov.in/Linsit, and then the information system through a form where user ID and passwords are required. Information flow is two-way. Open access is through website, restricted access in the information system. Open access information includes cooperating centers, coordinating unit, achievements, publications, and some important links and all. And feature of the experiments include trials which are there for crop improvement, both initial and advanced, crop protection, crop production, and others. Statistical design normally used are augmented block designs, which include randomized complete block designs as well as alpha designs, factorial experiments, and split plot designs. Reporting normally, which has been done at present, is simple analysis of variance, table of means with rank of treatments across locations, p-value, grand mean, CD value, and CV, zone-wise analysis with pooled analysis, taking care of all aspects of how to promote the variety. Then it consists of process of experiment creation, experiment information layout, and other information. Different authentication levels are experimenter in charge, group head, and admin. These are basically users at different locations. Then we have public or general users. We have head, PC, or PD, experimenter in charge, and admin. The role of experimenter in charge is to create the experiment to be conducted by different centers during that year, edit or update the experiment, and randomize the layout. Now, once the randomized layout is generated, this randomized layout can be viewed or downloaded by the experimenters. They can download the data sheets, and then after conducting the experiment and collecting the observation information on the attributes, desired attributes, those uploaded data sheets can be uploaded. Experimenter in charge or group head can see that which centers have uploaded the data, which centers have not uploaded the data, send them the reminders, validate the data through some inbuilt checks, analysis, and then generate the reports. Basically, ACRIP information system is both pre-trial stage as well as trial creation. In pre-trial stage, whatever new lines are submitted by the different centers for testing, those can be updated. Auto numbering is optional, but of course, numbering from the PC side can also be given. Trial creation, entries from the database can be chosen, or the treatments can be written by the experimenter in charge. Random coding of entries, this is again optional. Then we have designs completely randomized, randomized complete block, alpha designs, split plot, factorial experiments for agronomy and plant protection trials, select of location, trade names of the database, etc. And this I have already said, that auto-generated Excel sheet for data entry, data upload and review, and then statistical analysis, reporting in Excel sheet, location means, ranks, zonal means, and ranks. Now, full-fledged, it has been implemented for the time being in 3 for several years, that is sorghum, maize, and small millets. And their feedback is that earlier there are 5 people or different trials used to spend around 2 to 3 months for generating this analysis and data, getting this data in one format. Now they can spend do this work in 3 days. Therefore, there is a lot of each which has happened with the report inclusion of these information systems, as well as there has been a lot of time saving. Then this I have already talked about. 3 options are available for coding. No coding. Some of the centers equips have this kind of system. Same coding in all replications or different coding in each replication. Starting number can be given. Then coding of treatments. Treatments are coded using the starting number of the first replication. Subsequent replication will start at an interval of 50 and so on. If I go to ACRIP Linseed or any ACRIP for that time being, there is a login. Experimenter in charge or experimenter can give their user ID and password here, and then update. Experimenter in charge can update the new line entry, edit lines which have already been entered, promoting, promoting lines to the next stage, and planning of experiments, creating randomized layout or view or print layouts. And in new experiment creation, we have to select the experiment type, crop family, then title of the experiment we have to write, year for which this experimenter is in charge, who is the experimenter in charge, who is the group head, and what are the objectives. Then select the experiment type from drop down menus. This I have already talked about. Click on save, continue the button. Then observations which are already there in the master table on which the data is to be collected can be selected. But if you want to add some more observations or more attributes on which data is to be collected, which are not available in the master database, then we can enter those and save and continue. Then in new experiment case, again, the locations are already there. Therefore, locations can be selected where this trial has to be conducted. Then select treatments for vital lines in database, and automatically lines and checks can be selected from the database. And if we don't want to select lines from the database and this is a different kind of trial, then we can select vital line database as no and then enter the treatment details. Then display experiment ID and option to randomize, and then click on randomize. All treatments can be randomly coded, or as I have said earlier, that they can be partially randomly coded. Then select experiment ID. Now experiment creation is there. Select yes for coding the treatments. Click on randomize with coding. Message randomized successfully appears. And once this is done, then select experiment for which the experiment layout to be viewed. Layout with coding. Click on view layout. A PDF file of layout opens. This is how it opens. Then experimenter can log in using his or her ID. For each center, there are different kind of experimenters we have made, breeders, then agronomist, plant protection. Then log in as experimenter, download the randomized layout, download the data sheets, upload data with required information and data scrutiny. Now, this is restricted access, password protected, and user ID is acronym of location, organization, linseed. This is crop, whichever is there. Then user ID, then we can have initial password, some password, which can be changed. Then data sheet download can be done by the experimenter. This is how it can be downloaded, and then you can have the attributes on which data is to be collected. Once the data is collected, the data sheet can be uploaded along with auxiliary information of the experiment. That includes number of irrigations, number of the weedicide treatment given, and plot size and other things. Then data sheet scrutiny comes. It gives you the minimum value, maximum value, means, and range. And through this, you can see that whether data is okay or not, it is free from transcription error or not, and then you can upload the data sheet. Once the data sheet is uploaded, experimenter in charge can see that which centers have uploaded the data sheets and which not. Therefore, in this case, we have taken 2 centers. In one data sheet has been uploaded, another center is still has to upload. Therefore, PC can send the reminders through automatic email generation through there. Then review the data, and experimenter in charge approve data reported on location that can be seen by the experimenter in charge, and then finally submitted for analysis. For analysis of data, SAS servers will be used at the backend is being used. Experimenter in charge will be able to do the selected retrieval of data uploaded from the database. Retrieval file will be linked with the analysis module depending on the design used, and customized reports are generated. Now, analysis is on individual experiment, individual plus zone, and individual plus zone plus station. Now, there is a facility of converting plot-wide data to standard units. Transformation of data is there, and it is being strengthened. Ranking can be done both ascending and descending order. Multiple comparison tests which are available are features, least significant difference test, and 2K on a significant difference test. Output can be obtained in RTF, PDF, or Excel, and visualization of biplot is done. And presently it is done using Indian NAR statistical computing portal. And this is mainly developed for varietal improvement eclipse, single or multiple crops. It can be used for any multi-location trial or individual trial also. And I have said that this is already under implementation for several eclipse in the country. And new features which we are testing is already tested for identifying genotypes, identifying mega environments, and data quality indicators at individual level based on heritability are being included. Then Excel templates are being developed for different designs so that mass data, previous mass data can be automatically uploaded. Then trial creation through Excel templates is also being thought of. Now the issue is that in all the eclipse, the issue are mainly 2, high CV, low CV, or the means below the state means. Therefore, look for proper blocking, use of resolvable block design, identifying covariates for list of covariates. For low CV, in cases where replication effect is significant, and CV is below a certain level, say 4%, the trial data may be considered only after verification about trial conduction from the monitoring report. Unrestricted yield of varieties or very high or very low variance across replication for some of the varieties may also be considered while accepting or rejecting data for pooling. Now, basically in all these trials, what we have seen is that there is a need of rezoning of the trials, and most important point which I want to say, that local check is not same across all locations. And normally we consider it the same treatment and analyze. Therefore, if it is not same, it is a different variety at different locations. It should be considered different checks, and then numbering of the treatment should be done accordingly. With these words, I would like to thank by saying that, in short, all theories, stories that we make are just data with a soul. And I request everyone to make use of this research data management practices at the council, as well as get the benefit of good practices done across CGIAR. Dr. Abhishek is going to make a presentation after me, and then make use of in better management of research data at the national level, and also sharing with other stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajan Prasad, for such an excellent presentation and all that. And automation is the need of the hour, and in such a short time, you have helped us in developing the system for both safflower and linseed. And this year, we'll be training our equip scientists also, sir, how to upload the data and all that. And as you suggested, the varietal information system also, we do not have much of information about our oilseed varieties. I'll request all our equip scientists to provide the information so that by next year, at least we'll have the complete information of the varietal information. Because when we prepare the books on varieties, also a lot of gaps are there, and the information in one source is different from what we have and all that. So we are trying to put all the information in a common platform, and then same thing will be shared with the IASRA. And like we have done for the ICR Institute, can we think of putting in the Krishi portal the ECRIP achievements also, sir?
Yeah, ECRIP is already there. ECRIP can upload the publications. Yeah, they can upload the publication technology. Yeah, okay. They can upload publication technologies, everything.
Okay, only sir. We will encourage our scientists.
Somebody from the headquarters has to monitor them.
Okay, sir. We will try to encourage them to put their
send them their email. We will make them authenticated users.
That we will take it up, sir. So we can take a couple of quick questions if anyone has from the group. Any of the ECRIP scientists with regard to automation or whatever Dr. Rajan Prasad has presented? Or we have a discussion session, sir. So maybe by that time they will come up with their queries and all that. And once they start using the system, they will have a lot of doubts and all that, because now it's
let's have a session for them. Let's have a special session for them.
Yeah, sort of training session for them separately, sir, once they start using it and all that. So we have completed the coding for both the linseed and all that. Linseed, we had around 15 different trials, and that coding we have done with the support of IASRA and NARAN. So we will try to work on it and all that. So we try to validate, sir, both whatever we were doing earlier and through the ECRIP system also with the macros what we have received. And then it was perfect sync between both the things and all that. So
we are also learning. We are also learning yes, with you, sir, because you had been giving very valuable suggestions.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Then it's time that we have the lecture of Dr. Abhishek Rathore. I think Abhishek is ready with his presentation. So Dr. Abhishek Rathore is a cluster leader and principal scientist, data management and analytical support at ICRISAT. He has strong research and professional skills in bioinformatics, molecular data analysis, genomics, statistical modeling, experimental designing, mixed models, R software, GenStat, and SAS. So it's not only this particular meeting we would like to have you, Dr. Abhishek. We have 4 projects supported by DBT on minor oilseeds like safflower, then sesame, Niger, and linseed, where we are doing a lot of GWAS and GBS data analysis also. So there also we would like to have your support and all that. So with this brief introduction, I request you to make your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Am I audible?
Perfectly, Abhishek.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're audible.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this, and of course, Dr. Gupta, ADG, thank you, sir, for approaching. And then because digitalization and data management is my passion, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who is my PhD co-chairman, he knows it very well from the day, and it's always pleasure to be in meeting where Dr. Rajendra Prasad is there. So I feel like being at home. And thank you, sir, and thank you, Dr. Sujata, for the invitation. So, friends, You have already seen that how beautifully Dr. Rajendra Prasad is doing leading an efforts on developing a data management system, which actually is dealing with AICRB data. However, now I would like to, and you know, we are working on many projects together with Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And now I'll take you cover a slightly comprehensive way, and because time is limited today, and so I will not be speaking many of the things like as my bioinformatics part, because today I have been asked to discuss more on the digitalization and data management part. So first, like I come from, I work at ICAR, and my name is Abhishek Rathod. If you do not know me, I'm cluster leader and principal scientist for a theme which we call data management and analytical support. It's a cross-cutting theme across ICAR everywhere, our Place in Asia program. And our team has a vision. So our vision is that we work with researchers to achieve higher research quality, credibility, what we say repeatability, and cost effectiveness. And what we do, we leverage the modern data science. So that's vision of my my department, my unit here at ICAR. This is just, I try to give a glimpses, like, because when we interact with somebody, it's nice if we know each other, and you can all, of course, like anybody can approach us for any of the work. I think Dr. Sujata just mentioned, we may collaborate sometime or like modern analysis like genomic collection, GWAS, etc. And but these are some of the key areas where our unit focus more. Now this is just a, it's not complete thing. It's just a collection of a couple of important things where we work. We collaborate. We can have trainings together if you need. We can work on many of those aspects. So I reuse this slide several times, which actually makes me very happy and feel about my country. Indian agriculture research and food self-sufficiency. If we know that United Nations has set up 17 SDGs, what we need to achieve by I think 2030. I think they're thinking to revise the date, etc. However, what they have said, like with a five-fold, it's an old comment. Now I think that's five-fold, maybe six-fold, or maybe more than that. But it's an official statement what I have taken. With a five-fold increase in food grain production from 50 million tons in 1950 to 51 to about 250 million tons in 2014 to 15, India has moved away from dependence on food aid and become a food manufacturer. So Indian agricultural research is actually very aggressive, working and helping to achieve at least these SDGs in Sustainable Development Goal in India, and which is a very big proportion of whole world. And I think this is really going to change the way this world move forward, and of course, like helping whole of the world, including like United Nations countries and everybody, to get to achieve those goals. And all these things were, what I say, it was not overnight. Indian agriculture researchers have been, crop breeding actually have been extremely successful and instrumental in all of this when we achieve that. Scientific collaboration across national and international institutions, within country, outside world, across world, and this was the key of success, and of course, hard work. So excellent work in agriculture research, excellent work done in past and now. However, when you talk to a data scientist like me, and then we discuss, because the work, these all research work is a teamwork. It's not done by a single person. If a breeder releases a variety, that's not only the breeder's credit, it's whole team's credit. All entomologists, pathologists, trialists, agronomists, data scientists, statistician, everybody. We normally try to gauge on three very broad points: our success, our excellence from data. The first point, what we say, that there should be correct research data design. It's not experimental design. Research data design, this means like what data will be collected, hypothesis, a broad framework, general framework. Second, what we think, whether we are using digital intervention, are we collecting digital data? And are we collecting modern ways of data? And are we using appropriate modern analysis? Once these two goals are achieved, third excellence point, what is data science look for? Are we storing and sharing past data for future needs? If I say that past data that Dr. Prasad has very nicely talked about some of the databases, but here I want to say if a PhD student joins today and he or she needs some data from past, how he or she should go. I doubt still there exists some system in institution. If an institution has been in existence from say past 50 years or 40 years, do we have systematic data records, replicated data, what treatments were given? I think some of us even may not have. So this is the third thing which actually drives all data scientists, that we should have a proper storage and sharing mechanism, of course with the fair principles. So all the time I say that when we talk about past, but where is our past? We may have some data from past 5 years, probably, maybe 10 years, most of us. I think many of us will even find now difficult to get our PhD work, what most of us have done, all systematically data. If you are doing it's great, but most of us are not of that caliber. So today I would like to mainly talk on digital data management. I will not be able to talk on the research data design or appropriate modern analysis or sharing and other principles. Only I'll discuss today to know and manage our past data, analytics, etc. And I'll mainly focus on phenotypic data. There are lots of use cases on genotypic data, socioeconomic data. I'll touch some part of genomic data, but other data sets like, as Peter has talked, like you need to have market intelligence. We have developed a market data intelligence portal also, which you may approach me and I can share the link, etc. They all are public on a piece of paper. Some of the use cases of having past data at your disposal: you can do simulation, you can estimate genetic gains. If you see, we recently did a simulation where we have clearly shown that the treatments, and this is all on the past data, that if you fix the resources, like total amount of investment on a breeding program fixed, still you can get the higher genetic gain with the current genetic gain. This is so beautiful, but for this you need data. All replicated past data is needed to run such kind of scenarios. We recently developed QC panels, like this is more on the genomic side, like how you can do F1 verification. We didn't use a single penny actually to generate these QC markers till the in silico analysis. For wet lab, of course, like we need all past data, whatever past data was in databases, we just fashioned out, superimposed it, and we developed these databases. We QC markers. And now we are helping like many of the advanced research institutions. Same way we developed the mid-density panel, like how actually you can use genomic selection by very little number of markers, say 3,000 markers or 5,000 markers. This is what we have done, everything based on the past data. But how we achieved? We achieved this because we had all data very nicely in some databases. So in ICAR, we were successful in trying to see through our past and getting the data. You can see how nice these diversity parts are. You can very clearly see, like you may not even differentiate. The right hand one is with 2 million markers, and the left one is only 600 markers, and you see perfectly differentiating the things. So what indeed I want to talk today is some part of digitalization and data management. And if you see, a research data management and analytic pipeline has to be integrated, and we are reaching there. So you can see, like this slide is divided into 3 major parts. First part is submission of research, second part is execution of research, and last part is conclusion of proposal or conclusion of research. If we see, the input of biometrics or statistics or data science are evident from the day one. I think these are broadly cover my 3 points, what I have just discussed in the last slide. But if we see the major portion here, like how we need to set up an experiment, how we need to collect data, electronic digital data books, barcodes, sample tracking, etc. How to do that? If I ask a breeder to do everything by themselves, it should not be fair because it's teamwork. So here, like we are developing tools and systems and data management systems, which actually provides. So I'll talk today for a breeding data management system, which actually starts intervention from this stage. When you set up experiment, when you generate a study, when you generate trials, and electronic data book, how you generate data, how you clean the data, and even inbuilt statistical analysis and modeling. And well, no data management system can do interpretation, but this thin border is coming in. So you see that slowly, like intervention of statistics increases still here. However, the breeding data management system or other data sharing platforms things decreases, but they do exist still here. And I'm going to talk about today the periods. So indeed, what is needed if we think to understand and maintain our past is an integrated research data management and analytical system. This will be actually user-friendly data software solution for breeders. When I say breeder, it's for everybody. Probably I may need to change the text on my slide sometime. Soil scientists can use it. Agronomists can use it, pathology, because I heretic research and all of the partners in India also, I'll show you many programs are using it in ICR. Many different crop discipline people are using. And now what we are trying to do, we are trying to link institute as one entity. That means we have developed a global crop database we call GCD. This is so beautiful. Like by this, any PGRFA existing in agricultural research program of India, across India, has a unique identity. So if a variety developed by you is going to anywhere in the India, whether it's a state agriculture university, whether it's a another ICAR institute, central agriculture, or any institution, it will have that identity number. It will go that identity number with that. That's the way data management systems have been enabled. It will help with the seed mixing issue. It will help with the digital signature, DNA signature, many things. This kind of database management systems are going to help. Further, these systems will have automatic nursery planning. You can do crossing. I'll show you within the system. You can do generation advancement. Those who are breeders, they will understand. All you can see pedigree management. I'll show you more complicated pedigree trees. No one in ICAR now manage pedigree in Excel or in a notepad or a word file. All pedigrees are in database and very clearly which is crossed when, with which, how, and then how they are self or they are advanced or they are bulk, everything is there. All and this software can generate experimental design right within the software. It can, on one click, it can do analysis. It has APIs to connect different databases. And a very important part, like it has a register seed inventory. It will enable you to collaborate among various crop teams across India, not only within your institute, by maintaining the uniqueness of your work. So it's difficult that your work can be claimed by someone else because all pedigree, etc., associated with that line will be only moving through, and there's no way to detach a line with its pedigree in the system. So digital data management system, like it's not that I'm preaching something. Indeed, ICAR is using that, and many of the Indian programs are using it. Many African programs are using it across, as I say. So this system actually has a digital plant building process. It's a powerful database. Most important, it's a permanent institutional knowledge. If we leave job, we become head, director, DDG, DG, or we leave country, all of our data stays with the institute permanently. And then any scientist who comes to join at your place, they are immediately ready to take up from where actually somebody left. I'll show you more beautiful features soon. So this is the traditional data management, isn't it? We used to, but I think many of us are already using it on our phones, tablets, but like how the real power of those tools comes, that I'll just show you. So this is an example from it. We said like how we used to have. These are very old records. I cannot even read like which year was it. Probably somewhere in, let me read if I can, I think 2073. It's written here. Huh? So those records are like this now. And it's difficult if you need to maintain pedigree. People used to record on paper pencil. It's difficult, to manage. There are several things that we used to call, like some people used to call, there's too flowering as, there's too much flower, somebody used to call FLO 50. There is no proper way to call one trait, and how to actually collaborate internationally. So now we are trying to manage the international keywords together. The international crop ontology, that like all researchers working such in a crop, like chickpea or pigeon pea, all international global community agreed how to call, what should be the scale, everything is going to be inbuilt. And many of these things, like other digital intervention, it's not only the data management, other digital intervention, I'll just talk like how to estimate 100 seed rate, etc., those kind of things. So here, like we have done complete digitalization of breeding pattern. Like all the handheld data tablets, you need not to enter plot number, just enter randomly into the field, scan through your tablet's barcode reader, click on the barcode, you will automatically understand which experiment it is, what plant is there, what is its pedigree, everything you can just see in the tablet, and then you can start data recording. We have now seed counters and digital balances. Just put seed, it will automatically count 100 seed, automatically weigh, you can see the weigh, how much, and automatically it will make packets. In the field itself, you can do basic parameters like moisture, etc., right in the field, very fast. And you need not, it's a packet printer where you need not to actually write packet by hands. Many people write by hand. You just put 10,000 packet here, and then maybe in the 10 minutes, it's a very fast printer. It can print whole of your station's packet, and you just need to fill seed and then manage. So, digital data breeding is not only using a tool, it's like digitalizing whole, and here lies the informatics unit's role. And I think this will, I think DDG is not today around, but I think many directors are and project coordinators are in the meeting. With using this tool, you can actually enable such kind of dashboards. This is a dashboard, it's open on ICAR website, anybody can log in, and then you can see wherever people are doing trials in ICAR, like 2 continents, 12 countries, 7 crops, 19 years, 7 different kind of structural designs, and how many trials and segregating material. It's an old screenshot. If you log in now, you will probably see a different number here. And then you can scroll down. You can actually go to the trait level, but we have restricted it to the mean level, that people can directly see the trials data, but only till average of the traits. So these kind of tools, like a manager, a director, or a supervisor, can actually see in the real time what data was collected from which location. And all this is possible when you are using a digital data management tool. So this is the way, like when you log in into the BMS, if anybody needs to access, you can approach me. I can give you a preliminary access and you can play with the system. I can provide you some tutorials, online tutorials, which you can play. We have some video tutorials also, by which you can understand the tool. It's a cloud-based system, and then you can log in. As soon as you will log in, I have given you just a pigeon pea breeding example. Once you will log in into the system, you will see all of the trials here. You can see hundreds of trials managed here. Okay. Once you go into the system, it nicely hierarchically year-wise the data is managed. And everything is cloud. You can access this through tablet, from your mobile phone, anywhere. Nothing is on your computer. Even if your computer got virus, system will be there. You can click. You can see how nicely I will not discuss about naming convention. By this naming convention, nobody is now using their own way, like trial on mid-early parents or heat tolerance. No, people use a nomenclature. Like this is N for nursery, P for pigeon, R for season, rainy, 16 for year, PAT for location. Very beautifully, anybody like a new HOD joins or a new project coordinator joins, project coordinator knows like what this means. If he or she need to know which year, which location, they can just retrieve it. Then I see if a pigeon pea breeding leader scientist joins, then also he see exactly same structure what the predecessor was seeing. And when a breeding head, or suppose head of department, log into the system, head of department will see actually all of the breeding programs. Like in ICAR Asia, we had 6 breeding programs. That person will have access to all 6, but those individual scientists will have only access to their own breeding program. It's like a location in charge for a athlete will have access to only will have access to only his or her center, but the equip boss will have access to all of the bidding pro, all of the trial, or a director will have access to all of the departments or crop divisions data. So this system, and then since our system is hierarchical, we have DDG also. So our DDG will have actually access to Malawi, Ethiopia, all global operations. Same way DG will have access to all global operations. So it's a hierarchically based system, hierarchical access based system where people can have different level of access. People can print barcodes, people can link scanners, and everything they can do here. And another important, once you analyze data, it provides you head-to-head query. Head-to-head query, where like you can pool data from most of the centers, and then of course analyze data, and then you can try to run a pooled query there. Other thing what I'll be very quickly leave, like system allows you to have different roles, like you can assign data collector can have the role of data collector, technician, breeders, admin, and then everybody has a different privileges. Two people can access to say one breeding program, and one person can access more than one breeding program. And this is the way system. So system has actually eliminated need of typing. So all of the breeding material, suppose you want to do some crossing this year, like you have some male, some female parents, you need to upload them. Once they're uploaded, the typing process has gone. You can do all crossing. You can see how comprehensive pedigree trees can be managed. Multiple 10, 20, whatever generation data you have, back crossing, which parent was crossed when, everything is managed by the system. You need, and this automatically managed. It's not that, so suppose a breeder came somewhere here 20 years before, and then they made some process, like two process, and then like they continuously, this is I think 2-way process or 3-way process they are trying to make. You just continue, and this pedigree is managed. Whenever if you have joined at this place, you can access all this pedigree. You know the parentage is common, coming from somewhere. If you take this line, and now we are also actually estimating the coefficient of parentage. Those metrics are also there, where like you can actually plug in that how related two lines before you want to make process. So many of those things are there. You can specify male parent list, female parent list. You can see. You can develop processes. You can do all kinds of process like one-to-one process, diallele, half diallele, and full diallele, and then you can do process. All pedigree. The beauty when you cross, all pedigrees are managed automatically. You see. I'll just scroll through quite quickly, but we can discuss maybe in question answer session also if needed. And another beautiful is that seed inventory part. I think many of us manage seed inventory in Excel. Some of us write macros. But this tool is inbuilt. Okay, so this is not a separate tool. In the same trialing platform, you can click and actually you can see how much seed is there. So you can see if you click on a line, then you see 92 grams seed is available. It's an active lot. You click on next, and then actually you can see that when 100 grams were deposited at which date, who deposited, and then at what date it was withdrawal, who withdrawal, how much seed. That all seed inventory is managed into the system. So all of your genotype, all of your process line, everything is, and then it shows you the location where this seed is, where this particular seed is kept in the cabin 1, shelf 1, container number 4. So anybody can do. So these kind of beautiful features, seed inventory features are also. I need not to say, like when you have all of your breeding material there, suppose it's stable now, maybe in F4, F5, or X6, you can generate many of the trials are inbuilt. You select your nursery, get all 200, 300 lines. Let's get a PREP design or generate a augmented design, and or generate a row column or resolve, and then just click next. You can have your field map graphically. You can actually design your field map based on your how long, how many range and rows are there in your field, and then you can design a field map there. I'll come on analytics. Then there are lots of analytical possibilities there. Just browse the system connected to BMS. Get data from BMS, put into the automatically software will pop up. It will run a multi-environment analysis. You can see it runs many models like Finlay-Wilkinson, GG plot, all variance covariance modeling like genetic covariance. It can calculate. It can run ME. It can run many stability as a coefficient, and it generates a report. You can also get lots of other summary if you are interested. like standard error, mean, skewness, protein, coefficient of variation, whatever standard things you need, you just select them, and all that summary will come into your report, HTML report. You run it, you can see green means all report has run. Somebody requested for everything. You can get correlation plots within location plots. Box plots will be there, like how to see. You can see the superiority coefficient, stability superiority measure coefficient, typical GG by plot. Everything is there, like where you can group environment, you can see which one where pattern, all information. So these things were major bottleneck before, but they are not anymore. But if you use this tool, the tools, it will make your life easier. Yeah. And another thing, like such breeding decision tools are there, where if you want to select top line, I think in a ICRP, when you select some line, or in the breeding program, you do not only see one trait, you see multiple traits. So either use selection index, or you can use these kind of tools, like it will, which allows you to go through the system, where you can actually type a study name. You can see, like suppose it's a multi-location trial, where you want to, and you can have multiple trial data together here, what you can plug into the system. Just trial, because system runs on dynamic API. This base, you can automatically do search you there, and then you just try to select the location. If it's a multi-location data, load it. You see, we are loading either mean, or we can, mean means blobs or blues, whatever you have analyzed through the analysis, what I have just talked. Then you load the data, as you get all analyzed mean there, and then very beautifully, if you want to visualize it, immediately you can add ranges, and you add traits. Suppose you want to add early flowering variety, early maturing. So I just added this to flowering, and then I added this to maturity. Then I added probably yield there. And then I can do selection, like I want, which is very early flowering. You can just use graphical tool. Automatically, the all selection things will change. You select which are early maturing lines, and then you see, and then select the high yield. So you put hundreds of filters in Excel, try to color and sort. That is, there's 2 minutes job here. But again, like you need to use the tools. So the system is very beautiful. System allows you to make crosses. System allows you to record digital data. System allows you to generate trials. System allows you to, and the data when it's collected, the thing what I forgot to tell you, data syncs electronically over the internet. The day you collected data in field, if you click sync on the tablet in Wi-Fi, automatically it will come to the servers. I'll be very quick here, because today I do not want to talk on the genotypic data management system. And as I understand, this meeting is probably mainly for breeding and AICRP in breeding. That's why I have kept it here. So we also have the cluster-based genotypic data management system. This system is of very high scale. Like you can have here, suppose 80 million markers, 80 million markers, 10,000 lines. System works very well with that volume, billions of number of data points. But why I said it, because many of you might be in AICRP, it's very important now to use genomic selection, wherein AVT or AYT, actually you can also try to predict the performance based on the GBlock. But for that you have to use mid-density panel, as I have already talked. So what I'm showing, that we have developed a genomic selection pipeline, which actually exploits, if we didn't have our data in databases, we would have never developed this pipeline. But this data pipeline directly takes data from BMS, from the phenotypic data management system, from the genotypic data management system, it runs. You can see most of the genomic selection algorithms are there. Click run, and genomic selection is done. And this is not so already ICR has several institutes. You can see IARI, these all institutions and crops are already using BMS cloud solution. They all, as of now, we have around 85 to 100, I think, user base has crossed, where these breeders are accessing these cloud platform, and then they are using it for routine breeding program. And probably if you visit IARI RICE program, any of these breeding RICE, any of the program, what I have kept written here, if you go there, you can see As of now, DGR, we also try to work, but DGR haven't come on board. That's why you will not see any number here or the bidding program. So there is lots of opportunity. Yeah, these are the, to be very clear, like these are the crops from all leading centers like IARI rice, NRRI rice, IARI wheat, and wheat AICRP, sorghum AICRP, sorghum institute at IIMR, maize, IRI maize program, olive millet at IIMR, chickpea at IARI, chickpea at IIPR, pigeon pea at IARI, pigeon pea at IIPR, and potato institute and groundnut institute. They all are actually on the board. And this is the what you see, the 3 crop codes. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are trying to come up with a comprehensive database for India. It's not for 1 or 2 institute. Now, rice will be called in future, you will see rice will be called as RIC in the data management language in the system. Chickpea will be called CHP. So these are already standard. They have approval from the DDG and DG from ICR that have been discussed thoroughly with them, presented in several reports. And this is the way whole India is working. So, you know, within a couple of years, you may get some whole comprehensive data management solution for whole ICR. Now, thank you very much. This is I wanted to talk. As I said, my talk will be mainly focused on the digitalization and then integration with the analytics part. I'm not talking about other bioinformatics and other aspects today. This is my team, which is spread over Asia, ESA, and WCA, and we work together to deliver the modern data science. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abhishek Rathur, for such a comprehensive presentation and all that. And as you said, you are going to make it for the entire India or whatever crops we are dealing with. Hopefully that our crops are also included in your pipeline and platform so that our agri scientists also would be benefited. As of now, potato is not your mandate crop, but still it is there. And maize also, because it is housed in ICAR probably. So I feel that our crops also should have the benefit of this sort of a system and all that.
So yeah, so Dr. Sujata, on this, like we actually approached Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation through ICAR and IARI and together with ISRI, and because now you know ICRISAT is there located in India. It's not that we only work on our mandate. Of course, that's our major focus. But these like informatics tools, they are cross-fitting. If anybody has interest, I think you can approach us, and then we can connect you with the nodal team within IARI. And there are some commitments from everybody's side, and I don't see any problem. And if actually we can write some special projects or grants together where these kind of data management tools people can involve. Because if you will not write grants, like most of the proposal, what you are talking, you can allocate a data management component there. You can have a RA with you, not with me, with you, money with you. We can only provide support so that these things, you know, scientists can take it. But this is in the talk. I think ICR, that proceeding of project meeting had also come where DG Mahapatra and Dr. T.R. Sharma is not here today. They all were present, and how India is trying to move into that digital crop breeding environment. But I'm very much open to discuss this further, this front with you, and how everybody can adopt. Indeed, through that project, we have purchased hundreds of tablets and distributed to many of AICRP partners which are using that digital data now.
Dr. Rajan Prasad, sir, can we have some sort of link between ECRIP automation, what we are doing at IASRA, and then what Dr. Abhishek Rathur?
We are already discussing on that, and
yes,
there is already several commonalities, and we are already discussing on that. It will be done.
Okay, sir. And Dr.
So, yeah, maybe I can add Dr. Sujata here.
Yes.
You know, the beautiful part, what Rajendra Prasad has been leading, and since I was a student, I am still a student of him. So he is also passionate, and I can tell you the important part of any of the digitalization is using anything. Just get rid of paper and pencil and Excel. That is the that's the like first thing, and that I think IICRP has started. All of them. Till today we are using BMS, and I think if you talk to me after 2 years or 1 year actually, because have been using EBS. There's a big thing is coming, enterprise building management system. That will have so much beautiful like research flows, visualization, dashboards. I haven't shown that actually. I would have shown that today also, but that would have been like, and that, so it's moving. It's, I think we are very much proud to have Dr. Prasad, which are he's leading such systems where people, and then migrating from here to there to here, linking them is really possible in information technology era.
And Dr. Gupta, you have anything to say?
I think we regularly interact with Abhishek. And most of the things we are bringing in our eCrypts with the help of Abhishek, particularly in pulses, he has done a lot. And he has trained a lot of people in our eCrypt on pulses and digitization of the breeding experiment data. I think it is in the progress. The same way, I would request Rathor to help us in our oil seed program. So we'll continue to discuss on this issue, so that our program on oil seed should also get that in the digital mode, Abhishek. And we'll have the help of Dr. Rajendra Prasad sir, and that is very important, particularly for pulses and oil seed. I'm looking after sir, so we'll do better whatever is possible in our eCrypt program.
Sir, I think some additional support also we can think of putting to make the breeding management system functional for oilseed crops and pulses.
Definitely, madam.
For both IASRA and ICAR, so that these also are taken on board.
We are working on that.
Yes, sir. Okay then.
So yeah, so thank you, Sanjay sir. And so Dr. Sujata, what I suggest, you pick up 1 or 2 crop as a pilot. Yes. And then sometime our team we can come, and then, or we can train from here. 1 or 2 enthusiastic scientists you start with, and then you see how beautifully it percolates. In a couple of institutes, we only started with 1, and I'm very happy that the enthusiasm of Dr. Sanjay Gupta and who has been a good supporter and mentor also from past many years. I know him, and we can do it. Like, let's not wait for a very comprehensive thing. We can start to build on like bits and pieces. And he is very supportive. Dr. Sanjay Gupta is very supportive. Thank you very much, sir. And we will be doing as you advise.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek. Okay. Then Dr. Sanjay Gupta, I think it's your presentation now. We made slight change in the program. We are back again with the same program what we had earlier. So Dr. Sanjay Gupta doesn't need any introduction. And he has more than 30 years of research experience in grain legume breeding and developed more than a dozen high-yielding cultivars in grain legumes. He has authored more than 125 research papers published in peer-reviewed journals. And he doesn't need much more introduction. And he knows he's a taskmaster, and then he works on the field and has generated a lot of information. And it's his wisdom and vision only that we are having this particular training program and workshop for the eCrypt breeders. So with these few words, I request Dr. Sanjay Gupta to make his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Good morning to all. I think at present we are having 112 participants in this particular workshop. So I'm really happy. And at the outset, I would give my heartfelt thanks to our Deputy DG Crop Sciences, Honorable Dr. T.R. Sarma sir, because it is his initiative that we have started this program to have workshop on eCrypt trial data management. And particularly today we have included 2-3 more lectures, which are very important for us. Product profile by Dr. Peter and Dr. Haris, and Abhishek for digitization of the experiments. As usual, Dr. Rajendra Prasad is our mentor, guide for taking up the breeding experiments, data analysis, evaluation, and presentation, particularly of the eCrypt trials. So his support is really, madam, very big, and will continue to have his support.
Dr. Vilas Sanapi, the director of ICAR-Indian.
So, I think my slides are visible, madam.
Yeah, they are visible.
Okay, fine.
And only it has to go in the slideshow mode.
Okay. So I think it is perfect.
Slideshow
is perfect.
Yeah, slides are perfect.
So it should go in the slideshow mode.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, now
fine,
it's fine. Yeah.
fine. I think in this talk, whatever I'm going to talk, it is known to everybody. You are practicing in your ACRIP trials, but it is just reiteration of all what we are doing in multivocational testing of crop varieties in ACRIP, right from the try planning, data collection, and report generation. So anywhere in the presentation, if you find some clarification, I would be very happy to answer all those things, because as a coordinator, I had the privilege to lead the Pulse program for more than 8.5 years. So many things on the way I learned that how to do it and how to carry out the ACRIP program. So I would be very happy if you are having some specific problem questions that can be answered through my talk. And most of the things will also be dealt by our colleague, Dr. D.K. Yadav, in the afternoon. So maybe repetition of some of those things, but still I have to make presentation, and that will be helpful in clarifying most of the things while working in the ACRIPs. So these are very important, particularly the multivocational testing, which has been introduced in our country under ACRIP trials, because of the importance of the high quality improved varieties which are required for our farming system. Because the seed is very important, it is the hope of present and the future generations, and for continuing our and sustaining the life, it is very inevitable that we need to focus on the seed. And while taking the importance of the high quality improved variety seeds, I have quoted one important poem which I have had from one of the seed company, that in my dream, we could see that one person asked to an angel which was beyond the counter of the seed counter. And when I asked what do you sell there, then anything you may want, the angel said. Oh, I said, really? Then I would like peace on earth and end to oppression, no more hunger, a home for all refugees. Then angel said, wait a moment, you have misunderstood me. We do not sell fruit, here only seeds. My point is the seeds are the sign of the prosperity. So we need to have the improved quality seed of the improved varieties, and that will be helpful for sustaining our Indian agriculture in the longer way. So let me go to the back of the history, that how the testing of the crop varieties have been taking place in our country. It was year 1928, in the Royal Commission of Agriculture, they have identified that we need to stress to produce the breeder seed, and that breeder seed should have the varietal purity. And they suggested to have a separate organization within agriculture department to deal with the seed distribution and seed testing. Later on in 1957, the first ACRIP was introduced, and that was on maize. And then in 1960, the second ACRIP was on palm millet. And since then, we have expanded this ACRIP program to almost all 20 All India coordinated crop improvement projects. And presently, we are covering 85 crop commodities under this ACRIP system. So this ACRIP system is the really unique network. If you see in this network, it is all organizations and all the institutes are involved, those who are working on the crop breeding. So with the introduction of this ACRIP on maize and then on palm millet, and it led to the development of several hybrids, and which demanded the seed legislations. So we introduced the seed legislation in 1966, that has become Seed Act 1966. Then seed rules came 1968. Then the new seed policy 1988 and 2002. Then in 1989, we made a plant, fruits, and seed order. So it order regulated the seed imports in India, whether it is a bulk import or whether it's a small import for the research purposes. It is governed by this order. And then in 2001, we enacted Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers Act 2001. And the seed bill was introduced in 2004. And because of some problems, it cannot be passed. We have also introduced the seed bill in 2019. And still the debate is going on, and some discussion is going on this to become the Seed Act. Why I am referring all these historical perspectives? Because all are linked with the development of our multi-locational testing for the testing of crop varieties. And then every order, there was some mention how the testing of the crop varieties to be done in multi-locational trials. So, the testing of crop varieties, I think with the introduction of PPPFR 2001, so we are having dust testings, and dust testing is good for important for granting plant breeders' right, which is distinctness, uniformity, and stability test, and it is done with the dust testing centers. So once dust testing report is there, the variety is registered, and the registered variety seed can be multiplied, certified, and can be put for the commercial sale by the seed producer and the compulsory license system or whatever the system they have evolved under PPPFR. So that seed can also go to the farmers. But for that also, we need to go for the BCU testing, multi-locational testing. A variety should have value for cultivation and use. And this testing is done in ACRIP centers for multi-locational trials. And after that testing, the identification and the release of the crop varieties are there. The release of crop varieties are also made by the state variety release committees. And they have their also their own system, what we call it adaptive trials in the state. So they are also having the 3 years testing. So 1 year testing is mandatory for state trials also, IVT testing in our ACRIP. So any state variety which is considered for release or notified in our Act, Seed Act, that variety should have 1 year testing in ACRIP trials, that is known as IVT. So that point I want to make it very clear that state variety also, they should have 1 year testing in IVT at our system. So the seed multiplication is there, seed certification, and then it can go for commercial sale. So 2 points from the slides are very important. That after dust testings, we are putting variety for registration, and that registered variety can be put for commercial sale with some channels, whatever they are. But that variety which is registered under PPPFR Act should have the value for cultivation and use. And that should have also tested in multi-locational trials. So that is there. And in Seed Bill 2019, our release pattern also, release variety through our system should also go for variety registration. We have proposed in the Seed Bill that those varieties should also be registered. So this is the system we are following in our program. So in stage of testing, a minimum 3 years are required. First year we call it IVT. Second year is advanced varietal trial 1, and third is advanced varietal 2. So this 3-year testing is mandatory. Relaxation we also give for 1 year in some specific cases that I will discuss later on. There are those cases where we can relax for only 2 years testing is required. So mode of the induction of test entries are first from the government organization or institute, and third is from private organizations. We need information before taking entry into our accurate trials. Pedigree. Second is the pre-coordinated testing data, station trial data. So station trial data, we need grain yield, agronomic attribute, insect pest, disease resistance, response to abiotic stress, germination, and physical purity. So while supplying the seed or while putting the variety for testing, we need these information. And those varieties should be approved in the annual workshop or group meeting. That what are the entries are approved for the testing in multi-locational trial. From the private organizations, we charge a minimum fee as specified by the council from time to time. So for each crop, for each things, we have prescribed the minimum fee for the entries to be taken from the private organizations. So this is performa A. We want from our people that what are the, we as a coordinator, we supply that these are trials we are going to constitute. So trial constitution is very important. Normally, we need to constitute the trials for yield and yield performance. If crop is grown in different seasons, then we need to have separate trials. Say, for example, mung bean is also grown in Kharif and Rabi, or in spring or summer. So we need to have the information, or we need to constitute the trials for each season. Then we need to, if you second the second part of this slide, for field P, we are having IBT for 3 different types. Tall, dwarf. These are the 2 distinct plant types in field P. So if distinct plant types are there, that you can constitute the separate trial. Then market classes. For example, lentil, we are having 2 market classes, small seeded type and large seeded type. Then we have to have 2 different constitution of the trials for that crop. So a coordinator need to decide that what kind of the trials they need to constitute. It is according to season or the market class, or a distinct plant type is there, then you need to do it. Say, for example, if earliness is important, and if you want to have varieties which can mature very early, particularly in rice fallow situations or in some other situations, and you are having a distinctive disadvantages in yield of those entries in your normal trials, you can constitute a separate trial for earliness. But many traits, we are constituting so many trials for low oleic acid, a separate trial. That is not required in my opinion. You can have those kind of assessment and measurement in the normal trials. And sometimes the trials we are constituting for heat tolerance. In our accurate, we are not having those kind of facilities to accurately assess those kind of parameters. So you need not to go for heat tolerance. These are the additional traits. If breeder generates data on that important trait, we will have that discussion in varietal identification, and we will leverage the yield assessment on particular trait if they are having some specific traits. So the constitution of the trial is very important. We need not to make so many trials. Basically, we need to constitute the trial for the yield assessment and some specific situation. As for example, as I said, if the market classes are there, then you need to have a different. If seasons are there, you need to have a different, or some specific situations, very, very specific situations, and large number of area in that situation is there. And if you are targeting to introduce varieties in those areas, then you can constitute the trials. So this is the flow chart, how the testing of entries is done in our ACRIP trials. The first year IVT, as I told you, and IVT is done on all the contributing centers of ACRIP, irrespective of the zones. And the evaluation is done for yield, economic feature, quality feature, and some of the biotic stress tolerance. The second year is ABT1. Why I put left on the left side that new promising entries also here. In some cases where we are escaping this IVTs, so directly we can introduce the entry in the ABT1. I will give you some examples later on where we can escape this IVTs. So these ABTs are generally done on the zonal basis. In IVT, we are putting entries in all the locations, and on the basis of that data, we identify the lines which are performing well in respective zones. That will be promoted in ABT1 of respective zones, and those will be further evaluated in ABT2 in that particular zone. So in our system, we release varieties at national level. If a variety is performing more than 2 zones uniformly, then we make a national variety. Then if a variety is performing well in particular zone, that is zonal variety. So this is our system. We recommend the variety to be identified on the basis of a particular zone that the performance is assessed. And similarly, it is ABT2. In ABT2, we need to assess the particular genotype for more traits, more particular features. For example, abiotic stress tolerance, we can see the ergonomic variables, end product quality, whatever it is there, or any comprehensive description that is very important for dust testing profiles. Means those features are important, because in Performa we put the dust features also. So that will be distinctive for identifying varieties. So those kind of evaluations are done in ABT2. But all depends upon wherever the facilities are there. It is not always mandatory that you go for abiotic stress tolerance and you are not having the facilities. It is not required. So evaluation of test entries, as I told, that IVT will be constituted with the number of entries and the checks. And checks are national check, zonal check, local check, additional checks. It all depends upon the discussions made in the group meet, and there it is decided. We need to attempt that the checks shall remain the same for a minimum period of 3 years. That will be very helpful in identification of particular crop variety. Here I want to discuss one important feature, that's the number of varieties, number of entries to be tested in a particular trial. So its number of entries shall be limited to an extent where the adoption of appropriate experimental design becomes otherwise difficult. So number of entries plus checks, it should not include so much that our experimental design is not possible. Generally, in our multi-locational trials, we follow the RBD. And if entries are more, then sometimes we go for the alpha lattice design. So wherever the design is feasible, we need to restrict the number of entries. Suppose particular ACRIP, there are 15 centers, and now everybody is contributing 2 entries, it becomes 30. So if it is very difficult, you can go for alpha lattice design, and then it should also not be so much that a particular design is not feasible. Then you have to restrict. Then project coordinator has to make some uniform policy for all, that how number of the varieties should be restricted. Generally, we restrict 2 for each center. But there are cases where number of the groups are there more in a particular center. Suppose IRI is there, and there are 3 groups. They are involved in developing mustard variety. Then what need to be done? How can you restrict 2? The groups are 3 there. Then what is to be done? Before entry into the ECRIP trials, you ask them for the station trial data. So when 3 groups are there in the IRI, for example, then you ask them to constitute a combined station trial, where all the entries of all the breeders, they will be in the station trial. On the basis of the performance, you take 2 for our ECRIP testing. So this point I wanted to mention here. Then the source and quality of the seed of the entries. It is also important. Check entries, we are asking generally PC unit should maintain the seeds of the check entries. But if it is not possible, they can also request from the breeders who have developed those varieties which are considered for checks. And the test entries will be supplied by the respective breeders. So those entries should have minimum standard of the germination percentage, genetical and physical purity, and other crop seeds. So physically, we need to see all those things, and we should have the certificate from that about the germination percentage. And if in the trial off types are going more than 10%, so the entries of this for our BCU testing will not be considered. So this is also very important. Now, this I discussed, and I think Professor Rajendra Prasad has also mentioned that experimental design, what need to be followed, it should all depend upon the number of entries to be taken, number of replications to be taken, and what is the plot size. But most important is that the number of replications should be same uniformly, and that should be same adjusted in the field, same field. It should not be that one replication in one field and another replication in another field. So the trial assessment, what are the important data we need to record in our ECRIP trial? So yield is very important. And second is behavior with respect to factors in physical environment. Say for example, days to flowering, maturity, then 1000 seed weight. These are important. Others are obligatory, like plant height, number of primary branches, secondary branches, siliqua on main shoot. I have taken this example from rapeseed and mustard, siliqua length, seeds per siliqua. So these can be obligatory, but important is maturity, earliness of the flowering, and this test weight. Then resistance to key diseases. Wherever in each crop we have identified what are the key diseases. So say for example, in mustard, it is white rust, but other diseases are also important. So we need to have the assessment for the diseases in our trial. Then pest reaction, say for example, in mustard, aphid is important, but others are also very important. So we need to assess on all those things. Oil content in oilseed crop is very important. I think it is obligatory trait. But in soybean, you can also assess the protein content. Folic acid is important for the oil stability, but particularly in almost all the oilseed crops. So that can be important. And for the, if we are having the seed meal in rapeseed and mustard, then glucosinolate content. So the project coordinator in the group meet, they can have decision on that. What are the quality characters which are to be obligatory and which are to be optional. Monitoring of the trials are very important. And I think each project coordinator should make a team consisting of the PC as a project leader or any nominated person as a team leader, then the plant breeder as a member, agronomist, pathologist, and scientists of any other specified discipline. Those can be members. And the team should visit the trial sites and take observations. And we need to make a pro forma for monitoring of the experiments. And in those pro forma, the observations will be made on the crop stand, disease and pest insect incidence, bird damage, or any feature which is essential for qualifying or disqualifying the data. So the monitoring team is very important. A recommendation of the monitoring team would also be deciding factor in acceptance or rejection of the trial data. So this is the data booklet in each crop. I think we have the data booklet. What are the traits which are important to be recorded? So I have given example from our pulses. So this is the data booklet. So each coordinator has developed their data booklet and what is the plot size, what are the number of replications, which design, and all those information on recording of the observations, weather data, all those informations are there. So data booklet is there. Then we need to record the observation in that data booklet, and replication wise data has to be submitted to PC, and the PC has to analyze this data, particularly for grand mean, standard error, then the CD and CB, they analyze and they put in the summary sheet for each variety. And some ancillary data, as I told you, apart from the seed yield, we need to give 100 seed weight, 50% flowering, maturity, plant height, number of primary branches, secondary branches. So these are the ancillary data need to be recorded in the summary sheet. Then data processing is there. As I told you, the recommendation of monitoring team is important. Data is with you. Then the journal coordinator and breeders, they also can have suggestions. Then deviation from the specified range of sowing date is there, or the crop management practices are different. Some deviations are there. We need to look into. And any other serious flaw in conducting trials, data recording, reporting. So PC has all right to reject those data. And damage by animal, birds, natural calamity need to be recorded. And accordingly, the decision has to be made by the project coordinator. This is the data sheet where we take decision. So number of varieties are in the left column, and that each locations we have recorded data. And you have seen that the data are also rejected. So we take the decision for the acceptance and rejection of the trial, particular trial, on the basis of the CB value. That is very important, and Rajan Prasad sir has taught us how the CB should be considered in accepting or rejecting the data. If irrigated trial are there, red-fed trial there, what should be the minimum CB, what should be the maximum CB. So minimum CB is also not accepted, maximum is also not accepted. So there is some limit. And then the CD value is there. Then the grand mean. So if you see the particular location, a grand mean should not be less than the state average yield. If it is there, we simply reject the data. Because one case we have seen that a particular location, only 5 entries which were contributed by that particular locations having very higher yields, and others were so much of low yield. So grand mean becomes so less that it could not be considered, and the trial was rejected. So this is very important seat where we take decision of accepting and rejecting data. Then check performance is also need to be looked while taking decision. If performance of the checks is considerably very low and unrepresentative, then we have to take the decision. And all decisions taken by the PDPC with the consultation of the PI, project investigator of plant breeding, or the zonal PI, and discussed in the group meet and workshop will not be changed further. So the decision is final. So norms of the promotion of the entries for testing in the second year. For each crop, we have decided the norms. Madam Sujata has told that recently we have modified some norms for identification of varieties for safflower, sunflower, castor, linseed, sesame, Niger. Similarly, we have done for mustard. And we are on the way to for the soybean and the other oilseed crops, groundnut. So we'll do also those two crops. Already we have done all these crops. So only 2 crops are left. We'll do that also. So what should be the minimum percentage IVT, whether it is 5%, 10%, or 15%? Then AVT1, pulses, it is mostly 10%. Whether it is 10% or 15%. Or if it is hybrid, then what should be the percentage? Because hybrids are assessed with the already prevalent hybrids and OPVs, open pollinated varieties. So what should be the percentage criteria for promotion? That we have decided, and the power rests with the Deputy DG Crop Sciences, that what should be the criteria. Though he is taking suggestions from all ACRIPs, their PCs and the group, but decision of Deputy DG Crop Sciences is final in deciding those criteria. Similarly, we promote IVT to AVT1. As I told you, the AVT1, it is on the zonal basis. So the varieties which are promoted from IVT to AVT, it are tested on the zonal basis. And in the AVT1, normally the number of varieties should not exceed 20.
It's a very photosensitive.
But even higher number may be considered only as an exception. So that is there. And one more thing I wanted to tell you, these are ACRIP coordinated trial, multi-locational trial. So we should not consider any entry to be tested. It is coordinated when it is more than 2 zones. It is coordinated when more than 3 centers are participating. Suppose demand is there to make a special trial, and that is from only 1 center. That cannot come in the purview of the coordinated trials. So those are the things which need to be specified, discussed, and decided in the group meet. Then what are the number of trials and what are the trial sites? I think those decisions are to be taken in the house. And the number of test locations from which the data of acceptable quality should be generated should be not less than 4 per zone or per ecology or per season. Preferably it should be more, but it should not be less than 4. So this I wanted to highlight. So monitoring, as it is done in IVT, so monitoring of AVT is also important. And in AVT2, if we need some specific features, then our remarks are very important for those specific features also. Additional data you can generate. As I told you in AVT1 or AVT2, you need to submit the entry to the NBPGR for obtaining EC number. So you have to develop the dust characters also. And those dust characters are also important if you are putting your variety for protection under Plant Breeders Farmers' Rights Act, PBP and FR Act. So those dust descriptions are also to be supplied in that performa is there in Annexer 1 of PBP FR. So those data need to be generated. So where the relaxation can be given for the number of years. 1 year relaxation in respect of the period of testing under coordinated system can be considered by the BIC under the following situations. Normally, 3 years are mandatory. So we can escape 1 year in these conditions. A genotype representing a recognizable major breakthrough in the yield potential in produce of main economic importance. So exceptionally very high yield is there. You can escape 1 year testing. A genotype capable of minimizing heavy yield losses by containing, suppose rust is a disease which is causing devastation in particular area, and your entry is really rust resistant, described by the documents, or by the breeders, then you can minimize 1 year. You can give relaxation for 1 year. A genotype capable of providing safety against widely occurring disease, insect pest of major importance and causing economic losses on large scale, and for which resistance is not available in the already released varieties. A genotype possessing a special crucial feature which is not available in the existing varieties and which has wider implication on agricultural export. Particularly, particular genotype is of export value, and you are not having such kind of value in other genotypes. You can escape for 1 year testing. We are also testing near isogenic lines. Particularly, we are developing marker-assisted breeding lines. So those are also to be tested at the multi-locational trials, and we are having separate guidelines. Here, we need not to go for IVT. We can directly have AVT1 and AVT2, and these are the how those are considered as a nils. If recurrent parent selected for the marker-assisted breeding should be a variety or parental line of a hybrid which is widely cultivated and accepted by the farmers, but is now suffering from some production bottlenecks or lacking some traits. So that parent need to be improved through marker-assisted selection or some other methods, and that can be a nil. And for that, recurrent parent need to be decided by the ACRIP coordinator, identified by coordinator, and approval of DDG, then only to be taken into consideration. And the concurrence of the breeders and breeder organization for taking of that recurrent parent is also important. Then supportive information is also important for nils. The breeder has to substantiate the proposed NIL for its conformity to the parental variety with appropriate phenotypic data, such as morphological or dust data, and molecular marker data before it is nominated for the trial. The breeder has to provide details in terms of the list of all those characteristics for which the NIL is similar to a recurrent parent, but different from some traits before nomination as a nil to be tested in our ACRIP trials. So nils, as I told you, directly we take in the AVT1, and those nils should have a minimum of 80% integration, what we call a genome recovery, as it is estimated from parental polymorphic SSR marker to background selection, or as is decided by the crop breeding experts and through genomic information available in a given crop. A minimum of 6 parental polymorphic markers per chromosome should be used for this estimation. So these are some of the criteria we have put for identification of a nil to be included in multiplicational trial. There should be a minimum of 2 markers flanking the gene or the QTL of interest if the gene QTL is not in the telomeric or centromeric region. So these are some of the things we need to consider while entering nils into our trials. And the monitoring of the nils is also the same with other trials. So these test guidelines are available and published as a guidelines for testing crop varieties under All India Coordinated Crop Improvement Project. It is available freely on our ICR website. So all the breeders and the coordinator should go through it, and wherever any clarification is there, you need to discuss and decide in your group meet with the consultation of the ADGs, respective ADGs or DDGs. So this is all I wanted to tell about the testing of the crop varieties under my multi-locational trials. So with this, I thank all of you for your patience listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. I think our participants have a lot of doubts. Actually, a few things what we have to look into is like test locations in AV2, we are having lesser than what we have in the IVT. This is because whenever we give to the voluntary centers, they agree only for either the IVT or the AVT trials only. So that we have to take care of it, because in most of our crops, IVT test locations are more. And second thing is the take-home messages, the dust descriptors during AVT1 only. So it's my request to all my breeders also that during AVT, we will have it in our this thing also, that we have to characterize all the dust descriptors. Otherwise, we wait till the varietal identification, then we will be missing upon some data and all that. So we will take care of it. And AVT2 also, earlier we used to do the agronomic trials and evaluation of the particular, all the advanced varieties and hybrids. That somehow we are missing these days. That also will be taken care of, Dr. Gupta. And we generate a lot of ancillary data in the ECRIP trials, but we don't make use of it except for the yield, oil content and all that. Should we continue, or we are just not putting that to use? Suppose we are having some hybrids where the plant height is too tall, but that we are not considering when we are releasing it and all that. And some of these hybrids are not useful in some of the locations. Like in sunflower, if the height is too much, then in the spring cultivation, there is a lot of lodging and all that. So we are not giving much of importance to these ancillary characters and concentrating only on the yield and yield characters. So these are few of my observations, what we are faltering and which we need to rectify.
So I think two things: number of entries to be tested in IVT.
Yeah, 20 you said.
And second,
no, entries are okay, but test locations always IVT test locations are more than the AVT and AVT2 test locations.
IVT is generally done, madam, across the zones.
Yes.
Because there is some philosophy regarding this. Our variety, once it is released and notified under our Seed Act, it is notified for entire country. It can be grown, it can be commercially under sale for entire country. We do recommendation that in particular zone, if you are growing this variety, this will give this performance. So across the zone, 1 year testing is important. So number of locations, if it is in IVT, it is more, it is good. And second, about the ancillary data, I think we are keeping mum in our test guideline. And we have left to the wisdom of the house in the group meet, where you can discuss and decide what are important, what are obligatory and what are optional. In one slide, I have tried to make that kind of thing, that what are obligatory traits and what are the traits which are optional. So that discussion we can have in our group meet and decide there.
Okay.
And if we want some reaction from Dr. Rajendra Prasad sir. He is looking after across all the crops.
Crops, yes.
So a lot of experience and wisdom is there, I think. Whatever I dealt in the discussion in my talk, I think if it is supplemented by Professor Rajendra Prasad sir, it will be better, make more clarification.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev. This has been a wonderful eye-opener, all the guidelines. This book also I have read from the page line 1 to last line. This is a wonderful compilation. Only thing, 2 or 3 suggestions, what Dr. Sujata is asking is basically making use of other characters during analysis. That we have done for rapeseed and mustard trials, where a lot of trials were rejected due to high CV. Then we tried to use plant population as the covariate and analyze the data. As a consequence, through this analysis of covariance, we were able to reduce coefficient of variation, and rejection of the trials reduced. Therefore, that is one way where our ancillary information which we are collecting on different variables can be made use of through analysis of covariance. But of course, related to the crop, which variables can be more important, particularly to the economic characters, for to be used as covariates, that has to be identified. That is one point. Second point, I have a submission to Dr. Sanjeev. Basically, we had been writing these guidelines for variety promotion from IVT1 to AVT1, AVT1 to AVT2, and so on and so forth. Basically, if we take statistical significance as a criterion, than the best performing check. That would be a better way of doing rather than 10% higher yield or 11% higher yield or 15% higher yield. Statistical significance of all those varieties which are statistically superior to best performing check can be the criterion for promoting the varieties. Of course, we can be a bit relaxed while promoting from IVT1 to AVT. While IVT, we may take instead of 5% level of significance, we may consider 10% level of significance while promoting IVT1 to AVT so that no promising material is left behind. And then from AVT onwards, we concentrate only on 5% level of significance. I think that will become an objective criterion because in every ACRIP, meeting, there is a discussion that this is only 1 kg less than 10% higher. Why this should not be promoted? Therefore, all those objections can be put on hold, and objective criteria can be made if we have statistical significance as criterion for promoting the varieties. This is only what I want to say.
Well, I think this year we worked on few crops: mustard, safflower, sunflower, castor, and all those crops which our IOR is dealing with, sesame, Niger. So there we made the criteria for the promotions. In oilseed crop, it is not yield of the seed, but it is oil content is also important. So we made leverages and try to balance that if oil percentage is high in particular genotype, but seed yield is less, then what should be done? So those things we have taken into consideration, sir, in there. And you rightly pointed out that in later stages, statistical significance is important. Rather fixing 5%, 10%, 15%, even 20% is also we got from our leader or from PCs. But we rationalized on the basis of our experience what should be done. But those things for the promotion of the increase in the higher level, we are still in the discussion, and this test guideline need to be revised, refined, sir, which I felt. So we'll take your inputs while taking revision of this guideline, because now a lot of things are coming up. Now, say for example, marker assisted products are there in there. As I told you, NILs are there. So some other products are also there. So we need to revise it, and shortly we are going to constitute with the consultation of our DDG sir to one committee for revising this guideline. So there, sir, your help is utmost necessary for us. Without that, we can't make that kind of revision.
We will be ready to contribute. And actually, we were also proposing a ACRIP workshop for deciding all this. But if the SMD is taking care of that, then we will contribute there itself.
Sir, you most welcome if you can do for ICID and persist first.
Yeah.
Both together.
Yeah, we'll sit together and do it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Over to Dr. Sujata.
Yeah. Any other doubts from the participants?
Can I make one point, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Lal.
Yeah, I fully agree with what Dr. Rajendra Prasad has pointed out. The statistical significance makes more sense because every workshop, the criteria keep changing depending on who is the chairman. So this is something like a moving target. The second thing which I want your intervention is on CV. Generally, we take that if the CV is more than 25% and the yield is less than 1 ton, then we reject the trial. But actually, most of the AICRP centers are also hotspots for one or other disease. So the penalty is on the genotypes which are resistant. Rest of the genotypes which are susceptible, they succumb to the disease and their yield is very low. But just because the others didn't perform, the good genotypes didn't get the weightage from that center. I think there should be some criteria that only the yield of those resistant varieties should be taken, and rest of the varieties should be taken as 0. That's 2 points I wanted.
Can you share some of these data sets so that we can analyze and see what is happening?
Yeah, it happens every year because
kindly share 1 or 2 trial data sets so that we can analyze and see what is happening behind.
Yeah, I will, sir. I am at IRA. I can share with you.
Yeah.
Then any others? Our crop PIs, Dr. Rajni, Dr. Ratnakumar, what all problems we are facing in agri trial conduct and analysis, so that we have the suggestions of Dr. Rajendra Prasad and Dr. Gupta. Dr. Ratnakumar?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we face, especially in a crop like linseed, plant population is a major drawback because there is less thinning and plant populations are uniform, not uniform. So in that case, we need to, as our director, Dr. Rajendra Prasad has told, if you consider plant population also as a covariate, definitely may likely to end up with less CV and to take a meaningful decision on the inclusion or rejection of a center for the pooled analysis on zonal basis. So that is one good suggestion, ma'am. This is very useful for Lindsay. So thank you, sir, for your valuable suggestion. I think as we are developing
I have one more suggestion that is regarding pooled analysis. In many of the trials, what we are doing is we are taking mean across locations and analyzing that data. And we are saying that it is a pooled analysis. My request would be that we take the replicated data and do the pooled analysis the way it should be done, including genotype into environment interaction. That will answer many more questions.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, one more thing is not only our coordinated trials, we are doing a lot of work in the agronomic trials and all that. So what we are doing is pooled analysis of the center's data for the 3 years we are doing, but not across the locations, sir. That will give more meaningful results because multi-location testing for agronomic performance and all that. So that analysis also we are not doing. Maybe in the automation system, we can incorporate that.
We can do both over years and over locations.
Yes, sir.
We can do both.
That we'll try to incorporate in it. Yeah. Then Dr. Rajni, regarding CCM Niger, any problem?
Yes, sir. Sir, we need to go for automation. I have talked to ma'am that we'll be giving the material to Dr. Rajendra Prasad, sir, for automation of sesame and Niger crops, ma'am.
Okay.
And ma'am, in case of sesame, sir, the point is that if we are going for the analysis, sir, in the IVT, after IVT, sir, is it that in AVT 1, if the entry has gone into AVT 1, will that entry be continued for 2 years, or do we need to go for analysis in AVT 1 again and then put the entries which are giving higher CD be?
I didn't get Dr. Rajni.
Sir,
actually,
I just wanted to know that, like, if we are going for 3 years trial, sir, and then in IVT 1, if the entries are promoted to AVT 1, so if the entry has reached AVT 1, then it will complete 2 years. It has to complete 2 years. Or do we need to go for analysis in AVT 1 also and then retain the entries which are having higher 10% higher seed or oil yield over the best checks? Then it will move to AVT 2.
Across ACRIPS, there are different ways people are doing it. One is that some are taking same varieties, which entries which has gone to AVT 1, keeping them in AVT 2 as well. And if there are very large number of varieties in AVT 1, then they are screening at AVT 1 stage also and then going to AVT 2. Therefore, depending upon the number of entries, we have to take that decision.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
But anyhow, the data of AVT 1 has to be analyzed.
Yes, sir. So is it so that can we go for 2 years, sir? What is the best thing, that we need to go for 2 years AVT trial, or we can go for 1 year IVT and 1 year AVT if the entry is not moving?
No, it is 3 years only for release. Before release, I think it is 3 years.
Yes, sir, 3 years.
IVT 1, AVT 1 and AVT 2.
Yes, sir.
AVT1 to AVT2, it may be with the promotion of few varieties or all varieties. It has to be 3 years.
Sir, actually in other crops, what we do is whatever comes for AVT1 testing automatically goes for the AVT2 testing, although we do the data analysis.
Most of the crops it is being done, but there are few crops
only
where
in system what they were doing is even AVT1 they used to do and drop down some of the entries based on the performance, but invariably in other crops we do 2 years of testing.
then we can go ahead if they are not too much, number is not too much, and there is no issue on that, we can go ahead with all.
I think the 3-year testing is mandatory. And as sir is suggesting, if number of entries are less in AVT1, you can retain in, those entries all for AVT2. But 3-year testing is mandatory.
I'll take an example of vegetable crops where they are not promoting from IVT1 to AVT2. All varieties remain the same though, because they have only 7 to 8 varieties or entries. Therefore, if you start promoting, then AVT2 trial stage will not reach. Therefore, depending upon the number of entries, we have to take that decision. But 3 years testing is must.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Meena, anything with regard to sunflower?
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Gupta.
One question I have.
Dr. Meena, if you are not having any point, I think, madam, 3 points have emerged.
Yes, sir.
From the discussion. I think discussion is always important.
Only one question.
With the presence of Professor Rajendra Prasad ji, discussion becomes more relevant. First is considering plant population as a covariance. I think we need much more discussion, sir. And then we'll take decision on that.
Yeah, for that, if some trials along with plant population data can be shared, we'll analyze and share the results.
And Dr. Lal from IRI mentioned about the statistical significance. So arbitrarily, we should not have 10%, 15%, 5%. There should be based on some scientific basis of statistical significance. So that also need much more deliberations and approval of the house in the group meet. That is also important. And third is G into E interactions. Because the automation is there, now statistical analysis are easy, we can do all those things. So those are very important. I think in the revised guidelines, we will include this G into E in the pooled analysis. One more submission to all ACRIPs. Some of the ACRIPs, they've developed their online data submission and retrieval system. And sir has also launched a program at the national level, almost for all 20 ACRIPs. So everybody should contribute so that we should have at least some deadline where all the crop commodity have their system linked with the Professor Rajendra Prasad sir as director, ICAR-Indian. So everybody should make effort. I think in few crops it is there, but in other crops it is not there. I know in soybean it is still not complete. So all are requested to kindly help in this endeavor. So these are some of the points I wanted to make.
I just want to supplement what Dr. Sanjeev Saab has said. Basically, some of the ACRIPs are taking data in Excel formats at their own level from the centers, and then we are calling that as an information system. Basically, if we want to see international dashboards, and we want to have a dashboard from ICAR also of that kind, then all should be using the same codes, so that those dashboards can be created and similar systems. Therefore, it is important that we all have the ACRIP information system on similar lines. But if existing prototypes need some improvement, those can be done.
If required, sir, we can arrange one meeting, particularly of oil, seed and pulses ACRIP coordinator and their PI plant bidding, to sit with you, sir, and finalize.
We'll be happy, sir.
So we'll have a deadline, we'll circulate, and what date we'll sit with the DAXA, with your concurrence, and we'll finalize.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Seema.
Madam, I have one question for Rajendra Prasad.
Yeah, Dr. Gupta.
Madam, in pathological trial, AICRP pathological trial, some center reporting 80% diseases. on some center reporting 10% disease. So many medicine when going to average or mean. So give me some suggestion, Dr. Rajesh Prasad, how to analyze this type of data.
Yes, this is a very pertinent question Dr. Gupta has raised. This is with many crops, particularly because disease is dependent on weather. And if we need to think of relating it weather, and then again, I would suggest analysis of covariance. Otherwise, there will be only 1 or 2 centers where disease incidence reported is 80%. We can ignore those centers and analyze other centers together. I don't know whether Dr. Gupta, I am able to answer your question.
Yes. Some center also reporting some 0%. So many confusion reporting during pathological data. So
there are 2 things. This is with in-house we are discussing now. Basically, there are 2 things. Monitoring has to be very strict. Monitoring team report has to be seen what kind of disease level were there. Because sometimes only the field assistant reports those things and becomes difficult. This should be a part of monitoring team to see that what kind of disease incidence level was there. Let them also report.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Rajan Prasad, sir, I think we will go through the reports critically, and whatever problems we are facing, I will enlist them, sir, and then we will get back to
you. Let us sit together one day. Let us sit
together
and see those things. Yeah.
And whatever suggestions Dr. Gupta has given, I think there are so many problems, sir. We are conducting it and then promoting some of the varieties and all that, but still, I think we have to do a lot more.
In lighter vein, I would like to say only let us solve one by one, because all problems cannot be solved in one day.
At least the major ones, sir. At least the major ones and all that, so that the breeders' efforts will not go futile. The whole process. That's our ultimate aim. I don't think we have any more questions on this particular presentation. Can we close it? Close the forenoon session, Dr. Gupta, now? And then
yes, madam. I think our discussion will continue. It will not end.
Yes.
So, and with the discussion, we will acquire wisdom. And
in
one day we want to sit with the PC and PI, plant breeding exclusively, because many things we cannot discuss in the open forum. How to improve our testing system. I think Dr. Rajan Prasad sir understood what I wanted to say. So we will sit with the PC and the PI plant breeding, and then there we will discuss most of the things.
And actually, in the morning session, we have invited only the breeders because it is all relevant with the trial conduct and all. That afternoon, we have invited our entomologists and pathologists also. So it would be a larger group. And then the interest of Dr. Rajendra Prasad staying for the whole session in the forenoon, it's really, we are grateful to you, sir. And then we'll keep troubling you and disturbing you till everything is in place. And then we have to rise to the level of at what they have shown in the morning, sir. Unless we do that, it doesn't make any sense. But still, whatever problems are there in documentation of the data, we will try to rectify it, sir. And Dr. Anil Saxena, sir, is also with us. And then afternoon, we have your lecture, sir, from 3 to 3:30. And then we are eagerly awaiting to listen to you also, sir, in the afternoon. So, Dr. Saxena, you would like to say something about the trial conduct, apart from the biopesticides and biofertilizers, before we close the forenoon session?
Mute and accept.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. It is a nice experience to listen to all these people who are working with the data collection and evaluation. And I think it's not my cup of tea on working on AICR-piece and data collection, because my area of work and expertise is totally different.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to listen to these experts. And I think I have gained more from listening, and thank you.
Okay, sir. So see you all in the afternoon. And then I request all the entomologists, pathologists also to join in the afternoon session. That's for their this thing that we have arranged this particular workshop. So see you all in the afternoon at 2:30. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.